Hello, I'm Richard. Welcome back to my channel over and over and over again, the Positive Arsenal channel. Hello, how are you doing? Welcome back to over and over and over again, the Positive Arsenal channel. This is the pre-Newcastle warm-up show, obviously ahead of the FA Cup side tomorrow. Big game for us, of course, as holders. Our first game in the defence of the trophy this season. Of course, Newcastle are very familiar oppositions for us over the recent years, played them a lot of times. This is going out live on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. So wherever you're watching it, please give it a thumbs up. And please jump over to YouTube and give the channel a subscription as well. That would be much appreciated. I have got a great panel joining me tonight. It's a big panel as well. It's going to be a great show. If you want to sort of take part, you've got any comments or questions, please drop them in the comments box and we'll go through them as we go along through the show as well. It's always nice to get your guys' comments as well. So without further ado, then I'll get the guests involved. First of all, of course, he's always on this show. He loves it and we love having him. It's, of course, the one and only Melvin. How are you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, fine, thank you. Evening, everybody. Evening, everybody. Getting ready for this one.
Yeah, no, it's good to have you. Good to have you back on, and also as well from the Mr. It's Mr. Arsenal actually. It's not Tony Adams, unfortunately. We've gone better than that. It's Ryan from the Mr. Arsenal podcast.
I wish I was better than Tony Adams.
Well, it's better to have you on than Tony Adams anyway.
Oh dear, yeah, I'm not bad. Thanks for the invite, but yeah, I'm actually looking forward to tomorrow. It's actually provoked some old memories for myself, obviously growing up and all that with the FA Cup and Newcastle.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I mean, the FA Cup's been a great competition for us in particular. I'm not sure if our next two guests will be quite so enthusiastic about the FA Cup. It's not a trophy that they've done particularly well in recent years. First of all, we've got a Newcastle fan. His name's Paul and he's from the Toon Review. How you doing, Paul? Welcome to the channel.
I'm okay. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone.
And also as well, we've got another Newcastle fan. Well, just to even things up a little bit, give Paul a bit of company. It's John as well. How you doing, mate? You all right? Welcome to the channel.
Good evening, lads. Richard, Melvin, Ryan, Paul, and yeah, we're going to win the day. We're not going to win the game, but we're going to win the game. Don't need.
Well, you might do. You might do. We shall see. We shall see. Anyway, so yeah, that's this is the panel for tonight. So it's going to be a good show, and I think we might start with a bit of this. Obviously, the transfer window's open. There's going to be a lot of, well, not probably a lot of movement. There's going to be some movement going in and out. We've had a couple already. I don't know about you guys. Are Newcastle expected to do much business in January or not really? I know it's a tricky situation at the moment anyway, isn't it, with COVID and everything else? Do you think you're going to have any?
Yeah, we lost Rolando Aarons yesterday. He went to Huddersfield. But we were talking, me and John were talking about it on my show on Monday that it's mainly defensive players that Steve Bruce is looking at. We have been linked with Josh King today, yet another Bournemouth player, so that'll be interesting to see if that comes off. But I think mainly it's Phil Jones. I mean, really, Phil Jones from Manchester United, and you know, Bruce has always said he's going to give us players that are going to improve the team. For me, Steve Bruce was finished. Jones was finished years ago.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I mean that would be a strange one, wouldn't it? If I'm honest, if that was to happen, I think that would be a bit of a strange transfer. But January, sometimes you get some short-term deals, don't you, just to tide you over to the end of the season and stuff. And I think we might well get one or two of those coming in, possibly as well. Hussein's in the chat. How you doing, mate? Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, I mean, so we've bought a young defender. This is a strange one for us. I mean, I don't know what you two make of this, Melvin and Ryan. The young defender that we just bought from Hertha Berlin, and of course we've just got rid of William Saliba out on loan. Does that make any sense to you guys? Because to me, I'm scratching my head thinking, what's going on with that? Crazy, isn't it?
Not at all.
Melvin, what do you mean?
Not at all. You know, probably he's not ready. Then this could turn around and say the new 19-year-old's not ready. So it's really a strange one, really. When you think about that, we've got two decent, allegedly, centre-halves out on loan, youngsters that are about the same age. One of them I've seen a couple of times, looks quite useful. So I don't know where we're going with the centre-halves. I really don't. Is it to match? So the Saliba thing, I'm going to make a film of that, I reckon, in 10 years' time. Write a book, make a film. the Saliba mystery is going to be called. That'll come out. I'll get tickets for that one. But it really is strange for Saliba. And I think he's made a couple of comments today as well, Saliba. And that's not good for him, actually. Got to keep quiet, get on with it, keep your mouth shut, play well for these, come back, prove everyone wrong on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, that's all he can do, isn't it, really? I mean, he just needs to get his head down and see what happens when the loan's over, whether or not he can come back. He doesn't want to burn any bridges yet, does he? Because if he does that, then it's crazy, really. I mean, Ryan, what are you making of this whole Balogun situation? It looks like he could be possibly on his way out as well, which would be that would be really disappointing, wouldn't it? Because I think he's got potential, that lad.
Oh, absolutely more you'd argue more potential than Eddie Nketiah. I mean, when you're hearing news as well that West Ham and Wolves are looking at Eddie as well, you're thinking of, well, they're willing to let him go because it is getting their of him at Arsenal occasion let Eddie go for like 25 or whatever it is mil. To then let him go, but then lose Balogun at the same time, it makes no sense because then come the summer, what we're going to be doing? Looking for strikers along with every other area we need to do, strengthening a second. We need a second goal. We need a second goalkeeper, third goalkeeper now. We need a decent right back who can defend. That'll be consistent and things like that. There's other positions we need to sort of fill. We don't need to add to that list. And I'm sorry, I've said it before on my channel. Balogun, if you look at how he's broke through now at his stage and when Eddie broke through, Balogun is leaps and bounds ahead of him in terms of what he offers to the team.
I'll tell you what, though, I feel Balogun reminds me quite a little bit of Kevin Campbell, actually, when he kind of burst through. He's got similar attributes, and whether he can go on and have a similar career, we'll have to wait and see. But that's certainly what he reminds me of, actually. And I think it'd be a mistake to let him go personally. But you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. His agents involved and all kinds of other stuff. But anyway, it is what it is. And just have to see what happens with that one, I guess. So, I mean, John, is there anyone that you'd kind of got your eye on for Newcastle to sign possibly January or anyone to go out the door as well, possibly as well? Because that happens, doesn't it? A few players might be on the way.
Yeah, I mean, first out the door, I mean, you got players like Christian Atsu and Lassar and Harry Xavier. They're all about, what? About 100 grand a week between them, a little bit less than that, and we still can't get rid of them. We need to get them out the door straight away. But we definitely need players then. We do need two midfielders in the squad. We need it because our midfield at the minute is quite weak, and we definitely need two midfielders there. But left back, we try to get that Brandon Williams and Jeffo Williams as well, but not doing yet. But we do need to improve. And the problem is, scoring goals, if you take Callum Wilson out of the team, then who's going to score the goals? I mean, Andy Carroll's always scored one this season. Dwight Gale, he's okay, but he's injury prone. And Joe Linton costs £40 million. For me, and Paul will agree with this as well, and he probably smile, he is, for me, I've tried to defend the lad, but he is the worst centre forward I've seen in years. He doesn't press, he cannot shoot, and he doesn't go 50-50 bars and that. Every time he doesn't press as well, and that's the killer. If he plays tomorrow, I can guarantee you one thing, he'll not perform.
I can't believe. Sorry, Richard.
Go on.
You actually told us, Paul, that you're after Phil Jones. You can actually get to him before you get him. That could be another 6 months. You've got to have him a longer contract than 6 months, surely. I mean, he was going to be the new Duncan Edwards, they called him, didn't they, when he first joined? Come on. You're having a laugh, aren't you? Nah.
Let's just say somebody's made an awful lot of money from the Joe Linton deal, put it that way. Something smells rotten with that transfer. And I wonder whoever got him at £40 million valuation, God almighty.
Did our chief executive come to Newcastle to do that deal?
Well, mainly goes through Chanley, I think, most of it. But the scouting network's been wrong at Newcastle for quite some years now, and like I say, 40 million quid for Joe Linton. I mean, dear God, if that's the price of if Joe Linton's worth 40 million, then Aubameyang's worth what, 500 million? Dear me, honestly, it's ridiculous.
He's not at the moment. He's not scoring this season. I
No.
think Joe Linton's got about as many goals as he has this season, to be fair. But
Yeah.
but no, I mean, yeah, I think for £40 million that does seem a lot of money. But then, having said that, we paid 72 million for Nicolas Pepe, and he's not exactly pulled up the tree. So I'll tell you, what I do like from you guys. I know he's not been playing at the moment. Is Saint Maximum. I think he's a really good player, exciting to watch, and I think he'd improve our team actually as well. But,
there's been a lot of rumours going around about St Maximin at the minute because before the Southampton away game, there was rumours that he'd been turned away from the plane and told to go home. This was before all the COVID stuff happened and everything like that. And then all of a sudden he's away. He's in France. He's got COVID. He's apparently back in the country now, but he's still a few weeks away. Me and a few other Newcastle fans are of the opinion that there's been a falling out between senior players and Bruce somewhere along the line regarding his tactics. But we can only hope he gets back on the pitch quickly because he's superb. He is superb.
Yeah.
Top quality, and he's got all the attributes in as a player, but he needs to work on the end product. It's the final ball can be a bit frustrating.
Yeah.
But if you can work on that, and then we got a player here. Do you know what I mean? But he's so exciting to watch. The first season I thought was absolutely amazing. But the second season, that they've worked him out a little bit. But he has some good games, poor games. But under a different manager, attacker manager, I think this guy will good. Players will do bits.
Yeah.
No, I've enjoyed watching him play. Actually, I think he's a great player. Whether or not the Newcastle system's getting the best out of him, sometimes you have to wonder. Maybe
no, not at all.
No, exactly. That's maybe not issue. But he is probably one of the players at Newcastle that does get you off your seat, and he's unpredictable. Isn't he? You're never quite sure what he's going to do next, and having players like that in the team can be quite good if it works. I mean, we've got one in, as I said, Nicolas Pepe. He's the same, but unfortunately, he's got a lot less consistency in his final product, and I think Maximum's got a lot more about him. Certainly, his decision making is better generally. And I think he's a better all-round player. And you say your scouting network's not great, but you managed to get him.
Yeah.
Of a few other clubs, you'd imagine that he could have gone to other clubs possibly. So your scouting network's got in and got him. I mean, I'd have loved him at Arsenal. I still would actually. But so if he's a bit unhappy, then that's fine. We'll.
I think he'll end up with one of the, one of the big six. I think he'll end up with either yourselves or your next door neighbours or someone in London. I think that's where he'll end up. He can't be happy playing for Steve Bruce. None of them can.
Paul.
Go on.
Go on.
No, I was going to say, I know, most Newcastle fans aren't very happy with Steve Bruce in general. I mean, we've had a few big meetings with Steve Bruce over the years in the FA Cup and everywhere else. And I know, you guys probably aren't. He's not exactly top of your Christmas card list, I don't imagine. But I mean, what are your kind of thoughts? I mean, he's had sort of a year and a half in the job now. Well, what have you sort of made of it overall?
I think it's just gone backwards, to be honest with you. I never wanted this guy anywhere near my club. And the fact of the matter is, I mean, since he came, he doesn't change things up. It's just been the long ball. The football, the style of it has been absolutely passive. It's been horrible to watch. It's like social distance football with Bruce. Do you know what I mean? You just don't get close enough to them, man. You just stand up. Yeah, I'm never in the COVID, but at the end of the day, you still got to tackle. None of our players don't do that. I'll give you an example. We got a player called Jamal Lewis, right? When he was at college, he was attacking all the time. But for Newcastle, he's been told not to go across halfway line. And when he gets the ball and the position, he turns around and the players it back. And it is so frustrating to watch. I'm not blaming him. I'm blaming the manager. And he has got to be sacked. If you don't win on Tuesday, he is done. He should be sacked.
This is my worry for tomorrow night, whether he comes out, against Arsenal and sits back and invites you guys to come on to us. I think if he does that, the way Arsenal play, I know you haven't been great this season, but the last few games I've watched you are starting to knock it about a bit. And I think that young Smith Rowe looks a tremendous talent. And I just think you'll play around us quite easily. And I think you'll score lots of goals. If he does that tomorrow, we are better when we attack. We're better defensively when we attack as well. But Steve Bruce can't see it. And that's my biggest worry for tomorrow night.
I mean, to be honest, we tend to struggle at home against teams that, get a lot of people behind the ball. That's been our problem, not just this season, but in the past couple of seasons, actually. So, looking at the way that Newcastle's set up, I can see that being a problem for us, actually, in terms of trying to break you down. And then you will get opportunities on a counter-attack and at set pieces and stuff like that. And, that could be, for me, that's a worry, I must admit. I prefer teams that want to come out and play football against us at the Emirates, because then there's going to be spaces that we can use. And, like you said, Smith Rowe's great at finding spaces and exploiting them. But I don't think Newcastle are going to do that. If you obviously get 10 men behind the ball, it's going to be very difficult for us to create anything, because we've not been creating lots and lots of chances. The last couple of games have been better, but overall we haven't been. And I think that could be an issue for us. But, I mean, we'll see how the game plans out. I mean, it's difficult to say. I do feel the FA Cup sometimes it doesn't always go as you're expecting with the league games that have been before it. Sometimes, FA Cup throws up different games, doesn't it? I mean, you get shocks and all kinds of stuff. And
I think if you guys get an early goal and we have to come out, that's when you could use the right time.
I mean, equally, if you get an early goal, you'll literally sit 11 men behind the ball, and then it's going to be really difficult for us to break you down. So I think the first goal is going to decide maybe how the game pans out.
For us to get the first ball, we'll have to get in your half.
Yeah, that's true. You do need to get in our half and to score a goal, especially about Maxim. He might be able to score from his own half. He's about the only one, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely.
If you look at the tactics, if you look at the way he's set up, he's going to play a 5-4-1 to mark and guarantees, right? If you have a look between the midfield four and the attack, right, and probably one up front, it's such a huge gap. The midfield's not getting too close to the striker on the north, and the striker's not getting close to the midfielder. You got to work together. You can't have a big gap. Do you know what I mean? Or you're going to get stuck without the game. Like Joe Linton against Man City, when he played on zone, he was absolutely isolated. It was just unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? And if you get isolated, you're a front man, you're going to be knackered.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that tends to be how Newcastle have been playing. But, I don't know. I say the FA Cup sometimes doesn't always. It throws up a few different kind of tactics, maybe somewhere along the line. I say Steve Bruce has done okay in the FA Cup in previous games against us sometimes as well. So we'll see. I mean, we'll come back to this game a little bit later on. I just wanted to kind of look back on a little bit of sort of memories and stuff. So if we move on to this for a little while as well first. I mean, I know Melvin has always got a lot of great memories against sort of previous meetings with all the teams that we play. So we start with Melvin. I'm sure you've got some great stories about previous games against Newcastle over the years.
Well, before I start, just because I want to mention these names, the names of these games, doesn't mean I was alive when they were played. All right. So, we got one of our first games, might be our first cup final, was against Newcastle. 1932, and they scored. There was no VAR, funny enough. They scored the winner, Newcastle, over the line. The guy took it over. Do you remember? You ever read about that? The guy took it over the byline, well over. I mean, someone in the crowd touched the ball, I reckon, and he crossed it. The goalkeeper. We got beat to over VAR. Well, VAR would have probably still given it anyway, knowing then. Then
probably would.
You're a strong cup team, I reckon, a long time ago. Newcastle, very strong cup team. I think we won the cup twice in 2 seasons in the 50s. We got beat you. You beat us in 1952 1-0 when we had the man taken off after 34 minutes with a knee injury, no subs. And then we had about 3 or 5 players injured. We held on until right near the end where you scored in the last few minutes. We beat us 1-0. But from 1967, 8 games we played you, from 67 to 70, we only beat you once. You beat us every time about 2 up. But one of the games I remember going to was 1971. We played you in the league. We were going for the double. And Charlie George did he got the ball just outside the box. It was a hard game. Newcastle defending well, didn't know where the goal was coming from. And Charlie George, I'm not sure if he meant it, but he played it against the Newcastle defender. As it comes back to him, he smashed in the net. We won 1. Well, we did a lot of games at the end of the double season. We were just scraping through, and that was one of those games as well. Also, I went to the game when 1976 when Supermac played for us, the first time from you, he scored a hat trick. It was a freezing day. It was literally skate on ice that day. I think Newcastle, my memory tells me, I think they went 1-0 up Newcastle. They were a decent. I think both teams were near the top of the division. It was December time, halfway through, and both teams were quite high up there. Neither team looked like they're going to. We weren't. Neither team were like going to win the league. We just had to be up there at that time of the season. And I think 5-3 it was when McDonald scored a hat trick. That was for me. That was a brilliant day. Now then, the one that really upset me, you came down to Highbury in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
It was called the Graham Pole game.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, we played magnificently that first half. We were outstanding. It was Wenger ball on speed. It was fantastic. We went 1-0 up. The old cigars were coming out. We thought, this is lovely, absolutely wonderful. And then Parler did a foul, got booked. And then he tackled Shearer. And as he tackled him, Shearer went down. I'll never forget, it was near where I was sitting. He turned to the referee and went, no, like it wasn't like a bad foul type of thing. And Graham Pole booked him, sent him off. Then Newcastle got a goal from O'Brien scored, I think it was, from a corner. And then you get a long ball second half. Ball ran to, I think it was Shearer as well. As he controlled it, Campbell came in, took the ball first. Even if he didn't know he did. I believe he took the ball first. Graham Pole's at the other end of the pitch, penalty, 2-1, and then we attacked. Newcastle defended and then got a third, I think, a minute from time. So it was a man of defeat, really upset a lot of Arsenal supporters because it was the bad. Seems played so well, and then I know we shouldn't blame the ref by hand this time. Graham Pole cost us, so that was a horrible one to go to. And the one who was that was a one also I was looking at. I know it was the main one. That was the main one. Also, I'll tell you what I did watch. I didn't go to the game. I watched it at Highbury. They used to have the big screen, and it was a really good match. It was we went 1-0 up. Dixon scored from a header.
That one, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't go. I watched it on that big screen. And
Tony Adams got sent off, didn't he? Tony Adams got
sent off 22 minutes. We didn't have a great record at Newcastle then. Newcastle were very strong against us when it happened. And then they equalised. And then, I think second half, near the end, Ian Wright's got a fabulous goal. Just tucked it past the keeper. That was a really, the atmosphere at Arsenal, it wasn't obviously a full crowd. It was fantastic. And I went to Newcastle, just gave some big lifts. So, they're my memories of Newcastle. Some really good games there.
I mean, that one you mentioned, that one, the one at Highbury when Newcastle won 3-1, that I believe was the only time Alan Shearer scored at Highbury was that penalty. The only time he scored at Highbury. When I heard that stat a while ago, I was surprised because I always thought of Alan Shearer scoring quite a lot against Arsenal. And he probably did away from home, but his only goal at Highbury was that penalty, and it was a dodgy penalty as it was anyway. So
it was a dodgy penalty, yeah.
Yeah, but I was amazed by that.
Really.
Just imagine that he would have scored a lot more than that. But yeah, so I mean, what about yourself, Ryan? What kind of games stick out for you previously against Newcastle over the years?
I was going to say the 2001 one, obviously, the 102 season, because not just at Graham Pole and all that, but Henry afterwards. Doing something you've never seen him do. He literally goes up to the ref asking why we sent him off, why was the penalty getting ignored. Yeah. Pretty much what Drogba did in Champions League is what Henry did in the Premier League, basically. 98, the actual FA Cup final for me, because that's the first cup final I actually sat down and watched throughout. And as a young kid back then, Mark Overmars, and coming through at the time, Nicholas Anelka, but Overmars at the time being the main man because he was on form back end of that season. Knocking them in for fun, literally running down the wing, bang, goal. It was just to Mark Overmars and Elka. So two men near the end of the season that were showing up for the club turned up for the cup final. And if you're fair, actually, looking back, even in that cup final, Shearer had a couple of opportunities to get back in that game for Newcastle as well.
He hit a post. Didn't he, in that game later on? Didn't he? It was 1-0.
Yeah, I think we would have been lucky. I think we would have been very lucky to get anything out of that game. We didn't really perform.
Yeah, maybe, but football football's like that, isn't it? It's on small moments. And, if it had gone in instead of hitting a post or hit the post and gone in and made it 1-1, you never know, because we'd had a long, tough season and you just never know what might have happened. But, yeah, I'll never forget that moment. Obviously, we won the double that day, so it was a great memory for me to see us double
as well. Very hot. Wow.
The next time we played in the FA Cup after, I believe, was 2002 on the road to another double. I went to their place first. I think is it 1-1 or 0-0? Something, it was something like that. It was obviously a draw. Took us to a replay. It's back to our place. But you won in the end 3-0. But obviously that was a game where Perez's season came to an end because he broke his thing. But Campbell scored. Yeah. But when just as we're hitting our stride in the league as well, so that sort of replay came along. So it's arse up their pomp at that time. But if you look more previous, the man that should never be mentioned ever again by the looks most of our fan base in Wenger's last season, scoring on half volley at the Emirates. We needed 1-0 when Benitez was in charge, and it was we were poor that day, but for some reason it just fell to him because I think it was Sanchez had the shot initially. He just rebounded back in his path. He just hit on the volley.
He scored a few goals against Newcastle, Mesut Ozil. He had a decent record against them. It seemed to be the team he tended to score against more than anyone else, I think, for us. But that was a great goal, that one, that volley. That.
And I think I want to go back to that first 2002 match we played in the quarter-final, whatever it was. We kind of got off lucky because Richard Wright came out of his penalty box and picked the ball up, not knowing it had a free kick hadn't been given. So he's come out thinking Arsenal got a free kick and picked the ball up. And in normal circumstances, he would have been given a straight red.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I didn't remember watching it. I remember watching it because I was at my nan's house at the time. It was on the BBC, so I was watching it. I was like, and the commentator said, he didn't realise he believed that a free kick had been given. So he's come out, picked the ball up, thinking, well, hey, free kick, I'm going to launch it up the other end. And in normal circumstances, because the referee took pity on him by the sounds of it and gave him the warning of don't do it again. Then I'll let you off this time. Otherwise, that could have been a completely different result because it was definitely a draw. Obviously, 1-1. It was either 1 or 0-0.
Yeah, I remember the game. I think it was 1-1. Yeah.
But
I think Edu scored for us. Actually, I think it was Edu.
Edu,
I can't remember who scored for Newcastle that day.
No. Also in that season, we obviously played them at St James's, and Bergkamp scored that goal that we all talk about to this day.
Great goal for me.
Never forget that.
Great goal.
Especially now when he's like explaining it, you're watching it back when that Perez overhits the pass and he's literally there, like before the ball's coming to him. He wanted to do one thing, but now he's got to change it. He's got to hit the ball that way, run round the defender, and just literally go do it one. Not even take a touch, just hit it first time, bottom corner. When what was a crucial game because they were up. Because at that time Newcastle were up there going for Champions League spots and for the title as well.
Yeah, no, that was obviously it's been voted the greatest ever Premier League goal, wasn't it? And you can understand why because it was special. What about you, Paul? What are your sort of memories of playing against Arsenal? I know you've not got a great record against us recently, but you did you have had some decent games.
Yeah. Well, I remember one I went to. I got invited through work, so I didn't actually sit in my normal seat. I was in the executive boxes. And we played, I can't remember what year it was, and it was the most dullest 0-0 draw I've ever seen in my life. It was a terrible game, finished 0-0. But the one that stands out for me will always be the 4-4.
Oh, God.
I forgot about that. Genuinely forgot about that. I don't remember things.
I know we didn't win the game, but the fact that we were 4-0 down at half-time, you guys absolutely demolished us. I think... Van Persie got a couple, I think. Walcott maybe got one. He's just absolutely destroyed us. And I remember not half, but a lot of the fans went home at half time. They'd had enough. It was they couldn't see any way back with Pardew manager. But somehow we came back. I mean, if you're talking about dodgy penalties, then that game had one. I think the ball
had two, didn't it?
Yeah, go on then. Well, two. We got a bit of luck, let's just say, in the second half, but the actual equaliser is something I'll never forget because of the atmosphere. When that corner came across and then suddenly Tiote just smacked it from 30 yards it was, and as soon as it left his foot, I was sitting the Leazer's end behind the, I was right behind that. And as soon as he hit it, I knew it was going in. But it was just for the actual amazing atmosphere, the jubilation. Fans were jumping all over each other. Limbs were flying everywhere. And this was for an equaliser. But, that's just, I guess, what kind of, fans we are at times when we see a team come back like that. Yes, we had a bit of luck. But that game will always stand out for me against Arsenal as one of the highlights that certainly in my lifetime I've seen of comebacks, not necessarily wins, but comebacks. Being 4-0 down to a very, very, very talented Arsenal side with some fantastic players, yet we managed to scrape back to 4-4 was just amazing.
Well, I think we had 2 goals disallowed in that game as well.
Didn't Van Persie score after 4-4, Richard? Van Persie had a header, didn't he?
Yeah, disallowed.
Yeah,
it was,
both were offside. I think they were offside, to be fair. I've seen the replays of them, but I remember at the time thinking we had 2 goals disallowed. They had 2 really dodgy penalties. It was almost seemed like something had been conspiring against Arsenal not to win that game. But
I mean, I think it was the second penalty that was given when the ball just came. I think it was a free kick floated into the box, and then the referee, the ball went out of play, and all the players just turned to go back.
Yeah, and he's given a penalty. Yeah,
whistle blew when he was pointing at the penalty spot, and we were all like, "My God!" And then when I saw the replay of it, I thought, "Well, they've both jumped for a header," and I think it was Mike Williamson who went up for a header, and somehow it was given as a penalty. But I can't say I complained too much at the time. But,
it was Thiago who scored that great goal, wasn't it, to make it 4-4? The only goal he ever scored for Newcastle, I believe, as well, wasn't it?
Well, he's sadly no longer with us, but always live on in the memory. He was for me, Tiote was just the kind of midfielder we need right now, to be fair. Someone who's very forward, who's not frightened to get stuck in and picks up bookings here and there, but somebody that will control the midfield or try and get a grip of the game. I was devastated when I heard he passed away, but he'll always live in our memories simply for that goal.
Yeah, and it's funny enough. I mean, I said that was the only goal he scored. He wasn't noted for his goal. And when the ball's coming back to him, I think, at least it's him that's having a shot. That's going to be all right. And he sticks it.
Yeah, we thought it was Gallagher then, but it didn't. It just how he hit that. Considering he's not a goal scorer, it was just when somebody's everything needs to come into one. It was just incredible.
Like I said, he could do that 20 times, and 19 of them go in the crowd or go miles or no way there to go. And that obviously, when it mattered, he got it right and it went in. And Newcastle got the draw. But that was pretty devastating for us, actually, being 4-0 up. I've never seen that before, and I hope I never see it again. So, being
20 minutes to go. That was 4-0 with 20 minutes to go. It wasn't half time, and they got a goal straight after half time.
Yeah.
Well, and you know what changed the game?
He got sent off, didn't he? Diaby got sent off.
You know why he got sent off? Remember,
Joey Barton
Scalacci or something, the centre half. What was his name?
Scalacci, yeah.
Scalacci gave Diaby a hospital ball, from like a 10-yard hospital ball, and Joe Barton went in and clipped him. And Diaby's got a dodgy ankle anyway. He wasn't very happy, and then he got sent and rightly sent off because he had a go at him, and that changed the whole mood, I reckon. And we know the rest is history.
That's what Barton was good at, though, wasn't it? Joey Barton was good at that. He knew who to target every time. He knew what players' vulnerabilities were to get them to sort of tip them over the edge and get them sent off. He got sent off plenty of times doing it, but he had that ability to just work some players out. And I think he got the better of Diaby that day just by pushing him over the edge. And Diaby obviously lost his temper.
He did, and then the following season. The following season, I seem to remember the first game of the season we played. It was making his debut, and I think Joey Barton got him sent off as well. So he did it 2 seasons running.
He got hit in the neck or something, didn't he? Or something?
2 seasons running. Joey Barton had got us a player sent off, so he was good at it. Certainly,
he had to be good at something.
Well, he has to be good at something.
He's a legend up here.
He's not a great manager, is he? Because he's just been sacked from Fleet.
Yes, a couple of days ago, got given the boot.
But I mean, I suppose that obviously that's probably the most memorable game between the sides for obviously lots of different reasons. But the fact that we threw away a 4-goal lead was quite.
Sorry, Melvin, I didn't mean to bring it up and just make you feel down about it. But it's the only game I can stand out and remember against Arsenal, apart from coming down to certainly the Emirates and getting getting a royal hammering every time we seem to go there. That stands out.
A lot of trouble. Paul, I have a lot of trouble sleeping. Thank you very much. You've just ruined it.
You're very welcome. I do apologize.
It certainly kept us awake a few times, that game, thinking back. Yeah, but anyway. What about yourself, John? What kind of, obviously, apart from the 4-4, we don't really want to talk anymore about that now. There must be at least one that you enjoyed.
I've seen some good games against Arsenal, right? But at the end of the day, we didn't receive an end, unfortunately. But every time we seem to play you always beat us. I don't think we beat you since that where we beat you at home a couple of seasons ago. That was a good game when Gail scored a second goal. I think it was him and Richie. And I thought he played really well, but he missed a lot of chances. But the one I've seen, that Dennis Bergkamp, when he scored that goal back in 2002, so blind piece of skill when he took out Davies for that goal. That's a beautiful, beautiful memories. But not for an Arsenal fan, obviously. But apart from that, I have to agree with Paul. Definitely, and I can't say it, lads. It's the 4-4, I'm afraid. But we've gone 4.5. Sorry, but I don't know what Alan Powell said in the dressing room half time. But I tell you something, they certainly come out and they certainly had a goal. They really had a goal. You just said it yourself. I mean, the second half was a turning point. But at the end of the day, we just played our own game. We plugged away. We could have won it as well if Nolan had that chance. Yeah. We could have won that game. And can you imagine if Nolan put that ball in the back of the net? St. James is like an earthquake. I'm telling you.
I would have given up football. If Newcastle had won that game, I would have given up watching football forever. That would
it could happen to us. I mean, can you imagine us being 3-0 up or 4-0 up and then we don't win the game? I mean, it's just unbelievable, man. It's just absolutely amazing. The scenes after the game was amazing. Like Paul just said, that draw was as good as a win. And it's just great times, I mean, back to Toyota, God rest his soul. He never scored another goal like that ever again. And that was a cracking finish, man. I thought he's got to go over the bar or go wide. Thank God it ended up back in the net. And wow, it's just fantastic.
I think as well, John, I think for the Arsenal fans, we're talking, me and John are talking about sort of our ecstasy and when that goal went in. But from our fans' point of view, we're looking at an Arsenal side who've won league titles, who've won FA Cups, who, under Wenger were just incredible. Yes, towards the end it was a bit hit and miss, but under Wenger, you guys were just an incredible football team with incredible players. And, I've got friends who were Arsenal fans, and, when I went down at Christmas time years ago, I used to go and, if they were at home on Boxing Day, I'd go and watch them. They'd take me along. It was just seeing players that I wasn't used to seeing, the type of quality, like the pace you had in the team, like Overmars, Perez, just players, and Henry, who just is so exciting to watch. For us as a team to come back like that against, let's face it, you were still a force back then with Van Persie and everybody in the team. For us as Newcastle fans to pull that off is a massive highlight, and that probably goes to show how much we've fallen away as a club in over the years. From the 90s under Keegan and challenging for the league and things like that to having to go to that length of celebration to celebrate a draw against Arsenal. But the fact we came back from 4-0 down because of your quality. And I think for us as Newcastle fans, it was just so emotional.
To be fair, any team that comes back from 4-0 down and gets a draw, you're going to be excited, aren't you? Whoever you're playing, whoever you are. I can understand that from a fan's point of view, definitely. I mean, we'd have been going mad if it had been the other way round, if we come back from 4-0 down. I mean, funnily enough, that game, I'll always forget that first half, we could have been 8-0 up, 7-8-0 up.
That's the frightening thing.
Odds you would have got on Arsenal not winning that game, because literally we were so far ahead, it was ridiculous. And that just came out of nowhere, that second half. But, it was one of the most incredible games that's ever been played in the Premier League, isn't it, now? And as one of the greatest games ever. And unfortunately, we didn't come out of it with too much glory in the end. But at least we didn't. I suppose that is a positive we can take.
Can you imagine if Arsenal fan AFTV came out of that?
Oh God!
DT and troops and
that would have been interesting.
They would go absolute hell
It would have been a meltdown, wouldn't there? Watch action. Well, yeah, no, definitely.
If we went 4-0 down, mind, in this game, we never come back. We never come back if it was 4-0 down. Never. Because you haven't got the players to do it. We haven't got the ability and the confidence to do it. Not now, we won't.
No. Well, I don't know if it's ever happened in the Premier League before, actually. Is it ever happened since or before that in the Premier League? A team coming back.
I can't think of any 4-4.
I mean, we've drawn 4-4 a few times. With Tottenham, we did the year before that one, and then Liverpool away we drew 4. But we wasn't 4-0 up or 4-0 down. It was pretty even all the way through. And then Tottenham one, we were 4-2 up, and then we blew it at the end. But I can't remember that ever happening before or since a 4-0 down and not losing at that point. So obviously, it's a historic game for lots of reasons. And there's a couple of games for me against Newcastle that stand out. One, going back a long time, 1985, it was actually the Arsenal debut of David Rocastle when we played Newcastle that season at Highbury. The game was nothing happened. It was 0-0, but it was his first appearance for Arsenal. I think he was about 17 at the time, made a big impact. So that was a good day. And also, as well, a game that's memorable for not necessarily the right reasons. It was during the 1989 season. You guys got relegated. We won the league in the end. But the day that we played you guys at Highbury was actually the day of the Hillsborough tragedy. We did end up winning that game 1-0, but obviously what happened at Hillsborough took over and it didn't really matter that much. But that game just sticks in my mind because it happened to be Newcastle that we played that day and everything else that happened. And that was one of their sort of strangest days, really, in terms of, coming out of the ground, hearing what had happened and then getting home and seeing it all on the news and stuff like that. And it put everything into perspective a little bit with football and stuff like that, But so that was one that kind of just sticks in my mind. I do remember another game in the League Cup when David Ginola got sent off, and he had a bit of a battle with League a few times, didn't he?
Yeah,
there was a game where he got sent off, didn't he? Ian Wright scored it. We won, but that always stuck in my mind as well. When the atmosphere that night at Highbury was amazing, and of course Ginola got a good reception when he got sent off, which was.
They had some ding-dong battles over the years, didn't they, Dixon and Ginola? Yeah,
they did, yeah. I don't know if it started from there or whether it had been going on maybe before.
No, I went to the semi-final of the Cup Winners' Cup, Paris Saint-Germain.
That's right, yeah.
I went to that game and I saw this geezer play football. I went, he's got to sign for the Arsenal. This guy's different class. And him and Dixon couldn't hold him. Dixon never seen a player like him. Dixon had to fail him every time. And that's where it started, I reckon.
Yeah, I think it did actually. Yeah, when he was there, and obviously he went to Newcastle, and then obviously Tottenham as well later on, didn't he? And also as well, I just wanted to say that probably the worst game I've ever been to in my entire life was a game Arsenal Newcastle at Highbury, 1999. It finished 0-0, and I think it was the only game I can remember. I don't think either side had a shot on goal. It was literally the worst game of football I think I've ever been to, and it left an impression on me because I still remember it now. And it was a long time ago. I think it was 1999. It was. And it was 0-0. We just lost in the Champions League during midweek to Barcelona, I think it was. They'd beaten us at Wembley, and then we played Newcastle on the Saturday, and it was 0-0, and it was literally freezing cold. I can't remember having to stand up because someone had a shot. It was one of them days just sitting there like that all game, and it finished 0-0, and it was easily forgotten. But for some reason,
you know how we feel for the last few years at Newcastle. Every game is feeling like that, even in the summer. It's dreadful.
Yeah, no, possibly. Yeah, so maybe we're lucky that it's only one or two that we've had to stuff. And of course, there was another game which, for the opposite reason, there was a game that we won 7-3 a few years back as well. So yeah, I'm sure you were right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of them goals were actually, it was 3-3, wasn't it, at one point in that game, second half, and then we got a few late goals, didn't we? We made a couple of subs. Giroud came on a couple, but it was kind of 3-3.
Walcott got a couple of
Walcott got a hat trick. Yeah, he played well that day. Walcott. He got a hat trick. Yeah, that was a pretty exciting finish to that game. But I guess it maybe made up for the 4-4 a little bit. Perhaps we got our revenge.
Well, consolation though, Denver scored twice. We had a good game that day.
Yeah, Denver twice.
Twice, yeah. But also that Theo Walcott, the hat trick goal where you literally get like a free. He got fouled in the box. Instead of staying down and taking a penalty, he got back up and just dinged it over Tim Krul.
Yeah,
Forward to angles as well.
That was an amazing final 20 minutes, actually, because I think it was 3-3 to about 15-20 minutes to go.
Crazy. It was so end to end.
Goals, and it made the game look a lot more comfortable than it had been, because it had been a right ding-dong game up until then. We scored, Newcastle scored, we scored, Newcastle scored, and it was a lot of mistakes, a lot of defensive mistakes on both teams, a couple of good goals in there as well, and it was just a great game to watch, of course, from our point of view, more so at the end. I guess a long journey back for Newcastle fans, having seen them concede 7, but I think that's the most we've ever scored in a Premier League game as well, at the Emirates, 7. I think we've done it a couple of times. Yeah. That was one of them. So that sticks in my mind as well. But yeah, and the last time Newcastle won at the Emirates as well, 2010 it was. Andy Carroll scored. So I was lucky enough, that day I was lucky enough to be in the press box. Actually, I was covering a game for a newspaper, and I got to interview Arsene Wenger and stuff after the game, which kind of made up for the fact that we'd lost and it wasn't a very good game. So that sort of sticks in my mind for different reasons as opposed to being on what was on the pitch. But yeah, that was the last time. In fact, I've got a record here that Newcastle have played 14 times at the Emirates in all competitions. They've won 1, drawn 1, and lost 12. So no doubt tomorrow that record will be completely changed.
Thank you very much for really boosting our confidence for tomorrow.
You probably did, actually. Arteta probably did.
Yeah, he was captain. Yeah,
probably did. Yeah.
Yeah, he probably did. Yeah, I don't remember that, but yeah. Demba Ba never joined us. Yeah, there was a time when we were kind of interested, or apparently we were interested in buying him, Demba Ba. He had a good couple of seasons, didn't he? Where he went to Chelsea after that, didn't he, and scored a few goals there as well. So
yeah, Mourinho sort of done us over at the last second and sent him somewhere else.
Yeah, because I think he was going to come to Arsenal, wasn't he? Or
it was all done. It was all agreed, and the last second, Mourinho got involved and sent him somewhere else instead.
Yeah,
because he knew that Demba Ba, no matter what he thought of him, would strengthen us. That's one thing he doesn't do. He don't strengthen his rivals.
Yeah, he was a good player. I'll say, like we said, he did score a couple of goals in that game actually as well, which was good. So yeah, no, that was all some good memories there, and some maybe bad memories as well for all of us. I think which is good. If we may move on to a section which I know that Melvin really likes, and I do as well. There's quite a few to go through today because there's a few players. So I've got a few in there. There might be some I've missed out. You guys might know a couple more that I've maybe forgotten about. I wanted to start with one that Melvin probably remembers playing for Arsenal. Remember him, Melvin?
I'll do me a favour.
You don't remember him? Surely you do.
Do me a favour.
You don't remember him?
Laugh, aren't you?
I think it was not.
That's not true. When that geezer played, there weren't such thing as cameras.
I think it was 1904 that he played. I think he was a decent player apparently at both Arsenal and Newcastle back in those days. Jock Rutherford.
Good grief. Never heard of him.
No, it was a long time ago. It was a very long time ago. But there's one that actually this guy again he's an old player from a long time ago that no one will probably remember. If anybody knows who this is and what he's famous for, then you'll get an extra point.
No, don't.
No, I do.
Not a clue. Is he the geezer that built Highbury?
Is the geezer that what?
Built Highbury. Is he the one of the players that built Highbury?
Well, he's one of the players. He didn't build Highbury, not that I'm aware of. But he was famous for one particular thing at Highbury. His name is George Joby. He scored the first ever goal at Highbury when we first.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, and he later on played for Newcastle as well. So I thought I would throw him in just because historically he's an important figure for Arsenal in Arsenal's history. So, and another one that I'm sure Melvin remembers as well is this guy.
Are these army photographs? Or are they proper football photographs?
He was. He's the oldest one. I think he was 1800 and something or other.
What's his name?
But, Bob Benson.
Oh, God, Bennett. Oh, Jesus. I've never heard of these guys.
He played for Arsenal and Newcastle, apparently. So there you go. So there's three that I know Melvin remembers really well, as you can tell.
Yeah,
and we all. Yeah, they're free there. So maybe if we try to find someone that perhaps everybody might have heard of, might be nice. Why don't we start with someone who was briefly mentioned before? I think he's probably the greatest player to play for both clubs in terms of the impact he had at both clubs, which will be.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
terrific.
Yeah,
fantastic footballer. I remember him actually from being in Superstars in the 1970s.
That's
when
right.
he was used to win 100 meters. Now, didn't he? He was really quick. And of course, then Arsenal went and bought him, and I was over the moon at the time. Probably one of Newcastle's greatest ever goal scorers. I mean, do you guys remember him playing for Newcastle? Or was he a bit before your time?
Well, just before my time actually, but I've obviously seen loads of highlights about him. He still lives up. I think he still lives up here because he's on a few of the YouTube shows.
Yeah.
Talking about Newcastle, and he's still got a love for us, which is lovely to see. You know, he really cares about the club. But as a goal scorer, my God, I mean, you know, he scored a hat-trick on his debut against Liverpool. You know, not many people can say that they've come to a club, had a debut, scored a hat-trick against Liverpool back in the 70s when Liverpool were, just winning everything. But
started,
just what a player. And obviously I think it was the FA Cup semi-final goal he scored against Burnley at Hillsborough. Just things like that will forever stand out. And what a player. What a player.
Obviously be worth the day. I mean, if he was playing the day, it'd be, oh man, you can't even put a price on him. I'm telling you. I mean, you want to talk about 80 million starter?
Yeah. You know, he started his career as a left back.
Yeah,
he did.
And Fulham, wasn't he originally? Was it Fulham he came from, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
I think it was
Fulham.
Luton.
Oh, Luton. Yeah, it might have been Luton and Fulham, yeah. Yeah, I think it might have been Luton. Yeah, I mean,
Newcastle for 100 grand or something like that, and then the rest is it.
Yeah, I think Newcastle knocked him his worth up a lot when he scored the goals he did for us, and then obviously, you know, he came to you guys, and that, you know, he's never looked back, and then obviously scoring 5 goals for England in one match and all that sort of thing, and just what a guy. And he seems, you know, whenever we see him interviewed or, you know, he comes on the YouTube channels and he's such a gentleman, you know what I mean? But he will also speak his mind. If he's got something to say, he's not frightened to say it. And even about, you know, the owner of Newcastle United at the minute and things like that, he will say how it is. And that's what I love about the man. He's so honest, wears his heart on his sleeve. He's just an amazing guy.
He just pretended he didn't know who they was. He's seen them all play loads of times.
I've just seen that comment.
What was shame of McDonald was that his career was ended too short, wasn't it? Was it in his 28, 29 or something, done his knee?
Yeah.
He came back after a year to play for us, and I think he played 1 or 2 games, and they realised that he just
lost his pace and everything, hadn't he?
I think he realised as well, didn't he? I think it was a sort of, you know, from the way he talks, he knew it was over as well, so that there wasn't any sort of malice when he quit. There wasn't, you know, one person said you're finished. He knew he was finished as well. And it's a sad thing because if it was, you know, around these times now, they'd have fixed up his knee, no problem, and he'd been back out there, you know. But times were different, I suppose.
Yeah,
it was a shame. I think it was just a bad tackle in some game, wasn't it? I think it was against Chelsea. I seem to remember it might have been we playing against Chelsea for us, and
it was funny actually because it was a similar tackle that finished Shearer, because Shearer got injured in a tackle against Sunderland. I don't know whether John can remember, and his knee went, and that was it. That was Shearer's last game, and he couldn't play anymore because of the knee injury. So. You know, but like I say, had surgery been different them days, I'm sure he would have been able to play longer. Yeah,
because he was always a fit guy, wasn't he? Malcolm McDonald, he was a fit
strong. Wasn't he strong?
God, he was. Yeah, that's player. A great. I say he was one of the first kind of big names that Arsenal bought. That I can remember Arsenal buying a big name player, and he was a real fan. I remember. I think it was a record transfer fee at the time.
3-3-3, wasn't it? All the threes.
Yeah. Was there some? Didn't he have some fallout with the manager? Was it Gordon Lee was the manager, wasn't he, at Newcastle at the time? And that was how we managed to get him, which was obviously fortunate from our point of view. But
that name sends shivers down my spine, Gordon Lee. My God, you know. But yeah, it was. But it's one of them things you benefited from it, really. I think so. But what a player! What a player!
They nicknamed him Dracula, Gordon Lee, or Vampire or something, wasn't it, Gordon Lee?
I think you're thinking about the actor.
That's Christopher Lee, isn't it?
Yes.
I think they might have been related. I don't know. I don't know if they were.
I've never heard him nicknamed Dracula. I'm kind of thinking, I'm sure that was an actor.
Yeah.
I'll get me coat. Is that all right?
Who knows? Who knows? It might work in. I know. So we managed to get. We managed to get out of that, which is great. Another player who is probably a lot more famous for Newcastle than for Arsenal, although he did start at Arsenal.
Andy Cole.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys have pretty good memories of him. We don't really. He only played one game for Arsenal, which was a Community Shield, Charity Shield game against Tottenham, I think it was. The only thing it was any time he played for us.
City, didn't he? City for half.
For you guys.
And then we gone.
I never would have seen that coming when he left Arsenal, that he would go on to score the goals that he scored. I mean, 35 goals, I think, was it in one season for Newcastle in the league, wasn't it?
42. I think he hit 42 in his first Premier League season when we came up, and he was just phenomenal. And you know, he was in that. He went through a few seasons with us where every time he got the ball, any shot went in. But he had a magnificent sort of partnership with Peter Beardsley, and those two were just, to watch them play, they were just incredible. Beardsley just knew where Cole was going to be all the time. Just knew where he was, and Andy Cole finished it. And there was a lot of upset when he left. There was a lot of upset because Keegan had to come out and face the fans. I'll never forget that. He came out outside St James's Park and confronted the fans because there was uproar that he'd gone. But later years have found out that a lot went on behind the scenes up to that point. So, but for us, he was just magnificent. You can't take anything away from the guy. He was brilliant.
He just came from It cost 1.75 million, right? There's a lot of money back then, but I tell you something, he got goals, and that's all we asked him to do: score goals. That was his job. But like Paul said, when he went to Man U, then Keegan had to face the music, and I tell you what, Keegan was very, very brave to come out and did that. And I, for one, glad he did it, and he explained to it. Could you imagine any managers come out now and do that? They wouldn't do that. No, because at the end of the day, they get absolutely lynched today. Keegan was a complete one-off. And then again, when we sold Andy Cole, we got Keith Gillespie in a part exchange for $1 million. And I tell you what, he's fantastic. He's brilliant.
Yeah, it ended up working out really in the long run. You know, Cole went on to have fantastic success. Gillespie had success with us, but Andy Cole as a goal scorer was just what we needed for when we came into the Premiership in the early 90s. He was that kind of striker. And, you know, he is a legend up here for, a goal scorer, without a doubt.
Yeah, no, I'm sure he is. I mean, do you remember much about him at Arsenal, Melvin? Do you remember watching? I can only remember him playing that one.
I used to go to the youth games, a couple of youth games, over at on the M25, near where they train now, Arsenal. And I watched him a couple of times. And me and my mate used to watch him. Think, he's good. He's really good. Didn't mean what he was, just a good youngster. Keep your eye on him, but he never really got a chance. I remember him playing against Spurs in the Charity Shield, which was a lousy game. Went to that. But then I didn't know that. I read about it the other day. I think he come on a sub against one team in the top flight for us. Played half. He come on a sub, which I don't remember. But if you look it up,
he might have done. I don't remember that at all. I only remember him that Tottenham game at Wembley. That's the only one I remember him playing, actually. And he didn't really stand out in that game. You didn't think, he's going to go on with a career. You thought, he's all right, but is he going to make it, kind of thing? It was one of them. And he went on loan, didn't he, to Bristol City? And then I think he signed for Bristol City. Initially, it was loan. Then he went on loan first, and then he signed for Bristol City because he did well there on loan. He scored a few goals. They bought him, and then obviously he then went on to Newcastle and really kind of his career really took off then. I mean, do you remember him, Ryan, playing for Arsenal? Was he a bit before your time? Yeah,
just before. It just came through getting into Arsenal. But to be honest, but But
he wasn't really. I say that he didn't really play much for Arsenal, did he? In the end? He was quite highly thought of in the sort of youth and reserve teams at the time. But he never quite got an opportunity. But I don't suppose I don't suppose he minds too much now, the career that he had. Obviously,
No, exactly.
a treble at Man United as well and stuff like that. So here's a player that Melvin might be the only one who remembers. You might actually remember this one, Melvin. I'm not joking. I think you might remember this guy. He actually caused quite a lot of controversy at the time as well.
Yeah, George Easton, fantastic player. When I first watched started watching the Arsenal, he was what they call the schemer, the number 10, if you like. Brilliant player. He had a beautiful touch. And you're right, it did cause a lot of controversy. But when he was at Newcastle, he wanted to come south. He wanted to leave Newcastle. Newcastle board, who had all the power, as all boards did years ago, in the late 50s, early 60s, said, no, we don't want to sell you. We'll hold your registration. And it went to court. First of all, it went to court. I think he went on strike, actually. He went on strike for 7 months. He got the move to Arsenal. Then there was a court case after he moved to the Arsenal. That was, I think, a few years later, 63. And he won the court case. He said, I want to win this court case for everybody else. And, I mean, as a kid, I met him a couple of times. As a kid, believe it or not. And he was an absolute gentleman. But he had control a lot. Never forget, balls used to get played to him. And in one touch, he'd, a long 50-yard balls, he'd control it, move away. Or he had another trick he used to do. He used to use his shoulders. He'd go one way and fire a football deck. He'd go around him. But he wasn't in a very good Arsenal team. We had him. We had Joe Baker, who was terrific. Geordie Armstrong, Jeff Strong, Johnny McLeod, all these terrific forward line players. But we just couldn't win anything. I mean, I was watching them. It was about 7 years into watching them. We never got past the 5th round of the Cup, Arsenal. But with all these forwards, we just could not. We played Liverpool at home in the 4th round, got beat. We played Liverpool the next year in the 4th round, got beat. And that's when Ron Yates Joe Baker got sent off in Ron Yates, the famous uppercut. But we just couldn't do anything. We were getting, we were a mid-table team at best over those years with a great forward line. Just the defence was poor, I suppose. He was a lovely player, absolutely lovely.
I think the court case was about the minimum wage, wasn't it, for footballers? And they could sort of get contracts rather than being tied to the club and the club, wasn't it? It was all to do with that. And I know
Freddie Haynes was the main one there to get. He was the first player to get £100 a week. That was Jimmy Hill got involved with that, didn't he?
Yeah, Jimmy Hill was involved in it. Yeah, I think there were 2 players. There was George Easton and someone else who went on strike at the same time. I don't know if he was maybe a Newcastle player as well. And in the end, it might have been. Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, he's been on strike now. Not for a pay rise, I don't think. So if we move on to someone who I was actually excited about when we signed from Newcastle, but it never quite worked out for him, was Debussy. Yeah, I mean, I thought he was a great player for Newcastle, actually. And when we signed him, I was really, really excited because I thought he was going to be a great player for us. And he may have been, but it was injuries that sort of done for him in the end. He never ended up playing much. What do you guys remember him at Newcastle? Was he as good as I said or not really?
I thought he was great going forward. And, well, he's watching the national team. I thought he gets up and down the pitch. I thought he's quick. I thought he's good passing him, And when he came to Newcastle, he had some good games, some poor games. But he had, 2 seasons with us? And not even that. And then he just wanted to move south to Arsenal, and that was that. And maybe it's the money. We bought for 6.5 million or something like that. The bought was 6 million that we paid.
Yeah, I thought he was a decent player. Like John says, I thought he was good going forward. Really, he had great balance because he's one of those stocky kind of players. But I didn't think he was fantastic defensively. He did a job, don't get me wrong, but that's been the case with our right backs for years, where we've got good right backs who go forward. And but Debussy, I thought, would have kicked on at Arsenal. I thought he was one of those players that probably would have suited Arsenal very well, given the way they play. And like you say, I think injuries got the best of him. I think he's still playing over in France. I think he's still playing for Saint Etienne.
Is he?
Yeah, I think so. He certainly was last season. I don't know about this year, but like I say, he did a job for me. I quite liked him actually.
I mean, I'm against us a couple of times, and he stood out. And I thought, what a decent player he is. And then, of course, we bought him, and I was over the moon thinking he's going to be a good signing. And unfortunately, he got injured quite early on, and he never quite recovered from that for us, did he? I mean, did you think it was a good signing, Melvin, when we got him initially?
Definitely. I thought it was a good sign. I thought it was decent. And I think the last injury he got, which really put an end to his career, was he was letting the ball go off for a goal kick. The ball had gone off. He'd run the extra yard over the line. Some player, I can't remember who it was against. It might have been against Stoke. Pushed him in the back and put him right into the crowd.
Oh, yeah.
Into the holdings, went over, yeah.
Was that his last game, was it? Was that the last game he played for us?
I think that injury because what happened after that, Richard, I think Bellerin got in the team.
Yeah, he did, yeah. Well, Bellerin came in for him, didn't he? That was Bellerin chance, yeah.
They washed their hands with him, I think, after that, which is unfair on him, because I thought he was decent. Unlucky with Bellerin coming in and all.
I know he came back from an injury and he played in I think it was either the Champions League or Europa League. I can't remember where he was at the time. In some group game, goal, didn't he? Do you remember that goal he scored in one of the European group games? It might have been the Champions League, maybe our last season in the Champions League, maybe. And he fantastic shot from the corner of the box, went right in the top corner. I think it's the only goal he scored for us. Oh no, he scored against Liverpool as well for us, didn't he?
Liverpool, yeah. His comeback game.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be a great player for us, actually, and it was a shame, like you said, Melvin, it all kind of went a bit. It was a bit unfortunate with injuries and stuff. He had a couple of injuries, didn't he? With us. Did you think he was decent, Ryan, when he was at Arsenal?
Yeah, I did, and I thought at the time when we bought him, because the summer we just lost Sanya to Man City on a free. Yeah, I thought he was a perfect replacement. In terms of the Premier League experience, didn't need time to bed in there. It came in, he started off well, and as we all know, that injury early on in his time at Arsenal sort of done him over, because obviously, because it was long term as well. Bellerin comes in, he hits the ground running himself, gets a name for himself. Arsenal starts trusting him, and every time we sort of brought Debussy back, something would come up, a little niggle here and there, and then literally, as Melvin says, is that the last injury he got at Arsenal, he's just about to get back into develop things and win his place back. Yeah. And he got I think it was at home, and he literally got the ball's gone out, someone's gone behind him, and literally just shoved him, and he's gone flying over.
It was Arnautovic against Stoke that pushed him.
Literally, and he went flying over the actual advertising board, and
I remember it.
And like Melvin said, I think that's when Wenger lost faith in him, complete faith in him. Like, no matter what happens now, when you do come back, you're gone. And that's why I think things got sour between them two as well. Because remember, near the time, Debussy was saying a lot of things he shouldn't be saying about Arsenal at the time, things like that.
It was a shame actually, because I thought he was a good player, and but unfortunately injuries happen, and he never quite managed to come back and become the player that we all hoped he was going to be. There is maybe one who I just feel maybe went to Newcastle just for a late paycheck in his career, maybe.
Super soul.
Yeah, no super soul with us.
Was it one season for a paycheck? You think
he was finished when he came to us. He was long gone. His pace had gone, his awareness had gone.
He didn't play, really. Did he even play for Newcastle though? I don't remember him playing.
He played a few, and he wasn't good. So that's probably why you don't remember him playing, because he. Oh my God, he was. It's like Richard paycheck. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I went to Newcastle. He wanted to see what the stripe looks like, because after that he went to Notts County, didn't he? You want to see what he looked like?
That was under the Spent Revolution, wasn't it? When
it lasted about 2 weeks.
Go back on Sol Campbell. I mean, when he came to us, right? I mean, he was on 40 grand a weekend. I agree with Paul. His legs was gone as fierce as, and his performances, I thought he got Chris Hughton the sack. Because I can remember one game against West Brom away, right? And he was absolutely awful that day. And that cost Hooton this job. Because that was a Hooton signing he really wasn't there, and actually wasn't very happy about it. So,
the thing is, we went through a phase of bringing players in who were finished. You talk about Sol Campbell, Ian Rush, John Barnes, Stuart Pearce. It seemed to be like people's home, the retirement home. It was terrible.
And I can't believe it, man. I just think it's strange that and then we change the blueprint to sort of and get younger players coming through. And we'll not be signing over 30-year-olds again. Not at Newcastle, we won't be. Not with Ashley's there. That chance.
No way.
No chance.
No. I mean, obviously for Arsenal, he had a decent career at Arsenal, won a few trophies and rubbed a few noses in up the wrong way. From the other side of North London as well, which is always nice. It always seemed to me, I know he didn't really play much for Newcastle, but I always thought that when he was playing, he never looked like he enjoyed playing football. Really, he always looked quite miserable. I always thought. But anyway, I mean, he was a good player, obviously, a great player.
Didn't he have an incident in Arsenal in one of the games? I think they were on Sky not so long ago when they were replaying games. He went off at half time or something and some kind of
he had a few issues. Yeah, he had a bit of a breakdown or something. He'd had a really bad first half. West Ham had scored 2 goals that were down to his mistakes, and at half time he basically said, "I'll take me off. I'm not playing anymore." And he went off. He didn't stay at the ground. He went home, and he didn't come back to the club for a few weeks. I think they gave him time off, and then he came back. He got back in the team, played in the Champions League final that season, scored, and then left at the end of that season, went to Portsmouth. So I don't really know what went on there, but something had obviously happened, and he obviously wasn't happy, clearly. And I've never known a player do that, just walk off at half time and going home.
Yeah, I remember for the next few weeks from that game onwards, it was like the whole country was like, "Where's Sol?" Because no one knew where he was.
Yeah, he just disappeared.
Obviously, the club knew, but outside of that, no one knew. It was like every day in the news, "Where's Sol Campbell? Is he okay?"
Yeah, no, he just disappeared, and he must obviously had a few issues going on at that time in his life, I guess. And I say he never really came back and was the same player. Although he did reappear at Arsenal a bit later on. He didn't have a club. I think it was after the Notts County stuff, and he came back to Arsenal for about 6 months.
Just before he went to Newcastle.
Before. That's right. It's just wasn't it? And he trained with Arsenal for a bit. He didn't have a club, and Arsenal then offered him a contract till the end of the season. Played about 10, 11 games. Did all right. He wasn't quite as good as he had been before. He was obviously losing a bit of pace and losing a bit of fitness and stuff. But he did an okay job for a few games. And then he ended up at you guys and obviously made a big impression.
Massive.
But as a player that again is probably one maybe more Melvin will remember playing rather than anyone else. I don't know. I don't even remember him playing for Arsenal, but I think he was a good player. Was he?
Alex Cropley, terrific player. Never had a big career with us. So we bought him from Hibernian, and he came down with a big, expectation.
He broke his leg, didn't he? He broke his leg quite early on.
Yeah, broke his leg, and he again came back not quite the same. And I think we had a few youngsters coming through then as well, and we sold him to Aston Villa, I believe.
Yeah.
Aston Villa, and he went after Aston Villa. He went to Newcastle, which I don't remember him playing for Newcastle, to be honest with you. But he when he first joined, he looked, this guy's terrific, really, really good. But again, a little bit of unlucky he was, injury, put pay to that.
Yeah, no, I don't really know too much about it. Do you guys know much about him at Newcastle and Alex Cropley? Do you remember anything about him at Newcastle much? No. I mean, I don't know how many games he played for Newcastle. I think he went there later on in his career, and maybe another one who maybe went there towards the end of his career, played a few games, and obviously didn't make much of an impression.
There's a theme here. Can you see a theme?
Yeah, we can actually. Yeah. It was just maybe Malcolm McDonald's the only one so far that seems to have gone the other way. Seems to have gone the other way and still had a decent career. Another player who started at Newcastle came to Arsenal again. Melvin might remember him more so than anybody else. Do you remember him, Melvin?
Yeah, of course. Pat Howard.
Yeah,
centre half.
He was a player who actually Brian Clough described as the best centre half in the world. Believe it or not.
Really?
When he was at Newcastle, that's what Brian Clough said, and Brian Clough was a good judge generally, but I don't know what happened to him. He didn't play for Arsenal much, did he?
No, he didn't. No, not at all. Not at all. He only played, I think, with us a season and a bit. He didn't play much when he was with us. It was just one of those. I think they probably used him. I don't think Arsenal used him as a first choice. He wasn't a first choice centre half ever. I don't think. He might have played, but he wasn't a first choice.
Didn't he come the same time as McDonald? Didn't they both come together?
Yeah, together, but I think the same season, but not the same time.
Oh, it wasn't the same time. I mean, did you guys know much about his career at Newcastle? Pat Howard, do you remember much about him?
First I've heard of him.
Really? Before your time, I guess. think it was
The thing
early.
continues.
I think it was early 70s. He played for Newcastle. Then he obviously came to us at a similar time to Malcolm MacDonald, and I don't know where he went after that. Do you know what happened to him after that, Melvin? Where he went after Arsenal?
I don't recall where he went. No, I don't. Sorry, I don't. No, he just seems to like disappear in the ether.
Yeah, he probably ended up somewhere. He probably ended up at I don't know. Actually, probably in Scotland or somewhere. Not sure. I have to find out. Actually, I might check later, see where he ended up going. Here's a player again, another one following on from an earlier theme, really, who maybe went to Newcastle towards the end of his career, but an absolute legend at Arsenal and an absolute legend for England as well.
Kenny Sampson.
Oh, fantastic.
He's got a few issues in his life at the moment, health-wise and stuff like that. But a fantastic player he was. I mean, funny enough, talking about that game a bit earlier, the day at Hillsborough, he played for Newcastle that day and actually had a goal disallowed. And if that goal had stood, we would have won the league. And Kenny Sampson denied us the league if that goal had stood. He reckons he wasn't offside. Kenny Sampson said that to this day. He wasn't offside. It was given as offside. It was just as well for us as it turned out. But he denied us the league as well. So, and maybe kept Newcastle up as well, because I think you were battling relegation that season.
Yeah, I think Kenny. I think even when he came to us, I think he's one of the most underrated left backs of recent times. You know, and when you watch TV and you see all these left backs getting spoken of, Kenny Sampson is very rarely spoken about, and I think he was a superb left back. I really, really do. He was one of England's best left backs that we've seen, in my opinion. Anyway, he still offered Newcastle a lot as well when he played up here.
Did he? Was he? It was one season he played for you guys, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think he was decent. You know, obviously he lost a bit of pace by then, but he was still decent. He was very strong. I remember him being very, very strong in the tackle, very strong to hold wingers up and things like that. So yeah, for me, he was a good player anyway.
Yeah, but he was one of England's greatest players. Yeah. You'll have some good memories of Kenny Sampson.
A bit of time, wasn't he, Sampson?
Yeah.
Now, we got him on a strange one with Clive Allen, the old switcheroo, wasn't it?
Yeah, we did. I mean, Kenny Sampson's going to crop up during the week as well, because we played Crystal Palace during the week, and obviously he played his start with Palace as well, didn't he? So that's why the picture of him I've got an England shirt, so I can use him again. And it doesn't matter. I thought I'd hedge me bet, so get an England picture of him. But no, I mean, he obviously played when I first started going to Arsenal. He was the left back at Arsenal, and pretty much, you know, the first 10 years I was watching, he was in the team every week, because he never got injured. He never missed a game, did he? He was there every single week. And he was a strong player. He was great going forward. He linked up really well with Graham Ricks down the left, didn't he, for Arsenal for quite a bit as well. We had a really good understanding. And then later on, Tony Woodcock as well. The three of them on the left-hand side were just fantastic for a while. Yeah. It's just a shame that the team weren't quite up to it, because he only ever won one trophy with Arsenal. You know, Kenny Sampson League Cup. That was it, the 87 League Cup. The only trophy he won.
Stupid hat he had on. Do you remember that hat he had on?
Yeah, the hat when he went up to get the cup. Yeah, I used to have one of them, actually.
See, I'd have never not that he'd only won one thing with Arsenal, because he's so renowned for being an Arsenal player. Yeah, you would have thought he'd won a lot more with Arsenal, but that surprised me when you said that there.
He just played at the wrong time, maybe. He joined just at the end of that sort of late 70s team that had won the FA Cup. He joined just after that, and then he sort of, towards the end of his Arsenal career, was when George Graham first came in. He won the League Cup in his first season, and then we bought Nigel Winterburn to replace him. He lost his place in the team, lost the captaincy, and then that was it. And before we obviously won the league in '89, he'd already gone to Newcastle, so he missed out on them trophies. But it was just timing really for his career, unfortunately. But I mean, he was a great player, and you know, it is surprised he didn't win more, because he probably deserved to win more for what player he was. But unfortunately, just the way it was. But I think he played about 400 games for Arsenal. As like Melvin said, captain for quite a long time as well. I think I've got one more. There might be some others up. I've got one more. He's a current player at the moment. He wasn't much of a player at Arsenal, but I quite like him for Newcastle, actually. I don't know what you guys.
I knew he was coming up.
He was coming up.
Absolutely tremendous. Absolutely love the guy.
Yeah.
Not just for on the field, but about a season and a half ago, he was having personal problems in his life, and it was looking like he was going to have to move down south again. And they told him that if he needed to go, it would happen in a transfer window. But he never ever stopped giving 100%. Never stopped praising the club, doing what he had to do in the community, and he's ended up signing a new contract. So I've got nothing but admiration for the guy, and I think he is just a tremendous footballer. And I don't think he gets the recognition amongst pundits that I think he should, because whatever he's learned at Arsenal has come to fruition at Newcastle, and he's just gone from strength to strength, and he's one of our most important midfielders for me.
I mean, I was talking about this yesterday. We're obviously like doing this and saying about Isaac Hayden. You know, you can watch Newcastle on the telly, and his name never gets mentioned when he's playing. You hardly ever know that he's playing because his name don't get mentioned. But he does the simple things, and he does them well, and that's what he's always done. And you're right, he doesn't get the recognition he deserves. And I think you know, a lot of people probably wouldn't even realise who he is because he doesn't. He's not in the news all the time. He's very low profile, isn't he? But I think he's a great player. I agree with you. I think he's really
a quiet lad, and I think John would probably agree that when they went through quite a stage of when it was him and Shelvey in the middle, and the reason, Richard, like you say, he doesn't get mentioned a lot, he would win the ball and then just give it a simple pass to Shelvey and let Shelvey do the 60, 70-yard passes. He just used to win the ball and give it simple, and that was his job. And because of that, he doesn't get noticed. You know, and it's a real shame. And I think John would agree with that because he's one of our most underrated players that we have, undoubtedly.
And in my opinion, Colin Isaac as well. I mean, like I said, he's not a superstar, right? He's not going to be a world-class player. But what he does is very, very simple, right? For me, this guy should be our captain.
Yep.
He should be our captain. And I'll tell you something now, right? He should be in the squad. He should be in his name, should be on a team sheet every week. Because at the end of the day, I mean, like I say, he's not going to hit 50, 60, 70-yard passes, but what he does the simplest things well. Yeah. And it's about his tackles sometimes, but at the end of the day, he just does simple things well. And that's what I love about him. He's 100% athlete, and the guy is just a role model for Newcastle.
Yeah.
A role model.
I think, John, as well, what he does really well is he gets in and he puts the hard tackle in, and he's not frightened to put the hard tackles in. You know, if there's a 50-50 ball, he'll go for it. Whether it means coming out injured or not, he will go for it. And despite him being a quiet lad, he gets stuck in and he doesn't back out of any challenges. And I think that's why the majority of Newcastle fans really love Hayden, because the way he's come on since joining us from Arsenal, you know, he's clearly learned a lot down there before he's come to us. Clearly, you can see that. But he's just he gets around the pitch. He's not frightened to get stuck in, does the easy things. And he's probably, well, I would say he's probably one of our best players in the squad at the minute, undoubtedly. For work rate, work ethic, professionalism, all that is combined when you talk about Isaac Hayden.
Yeah, and he's got the passion, and he's got the hunger, and he's got the work rate as well. For me, that's a 7 out of 10. And when I do my player ratings, he gets a minimum 7 out of 10. Unless that's a poor game. 7 out of 10 for me in most of the games, because he does the simple things well, and he's a worker. And like you said, 50-50, gives it a go, and he's there. Brilliant.
Yeah. No, I've always... Obviously, because he came from Arsenal, I've always followed his career quite closely because you know, he came through our system and stuff like that. And I think exactly the same. I think he's a really good player for Newcastle, and he hardly ever gets a mention, does he? People don't talk about him. Even the commentators in the game don't mention his name very much because he's not that sort of player, and you could almost forget he's there. But that almost shows what a great job he's doing, because he's doing his job, and that's it. He's not doing, he's not, getting involved in anything he doesn't need to get involved in. He just does his job. And I think he's a great player. And I really, I don't think he'd ever quite made it at Arsenal. At the time, we had better midfield players than him, and it was quite for him to move on. But I mean, do you remember him playing much for Arsenal? Well, because he only had a few games, didn't he? League Cup games and stuff like that. He played.
Yeah, no, I don't. Honestly, I don't know. I know of him. I remember him being in the squad and all that, but I don't remember him playing for the first team. No.
Games. I seem to remember him playing at least one. He might have played. So do you remember him, Ryan, playing any games?
Yeah, he played a few. Yeah, he played a few of the League Cup games as he was coming through, but never like Premier League. He never got, because you said midfield was in that position. Yeah. There were players ahead of him that there was no way he was given a chance. So he did the right thing for his career and went to somewhere where he'd get given that chance and straight from the off. And I'm happy. I like yourself. I look out for him because obviously he came from our academy. He's an Arsenal lad.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm happy for him.
Yeah,
thing
no,
is-
I think he's
So
played.
what many people don't remember is he scored some very, very important goals for us as well. You know, last season the winner against Chelsea, and you know he scored some really good goals as well. The lad can shoot, but I just look. He's a tremendous player as far as I'm concerned.
You can play midfield. You can play centre half as well.
Yeah.
The game against West Brom, I know they're a poor team by the way, but when he did play against them, I thought he was outstanding. I thought he had a fantastic game at the back, and he could play centre half. He could play in midfield. But for me personally, I think he'd be better off in the middle. For me, that's his job. Position.
Yeah.
Clearly know best. He plays centre half in that system.
Yeah, no, I say he's had a decent career since he left Arsenal, which is good to see. I say, you know, from our point of view, coming through our academy, it's good to see him going on having a decent career in the Premier League as well, which is nice. I think that's everybody. I don't know if there's anyone I've missed out. Melvin might know. Is there anyone else, Melvin, on your list?
You've covered all the bases there. No, there might be someone from 1703 that you didn't put in, but no, I think you're all right.
I can't think of it. Do you guys know anybody else who's played for Arsenal or Newcastle that we maybe haven't mentioned that we've missed out?
I think.
Can't think.
I don't.
No.
I did some extensive research, but I think my favourite one out of all of them, apart from Malcolm McDonald, obviously, is probably George Joby, because he scored the first ever goal at Highbury. So I think we need to give him a special mention again, because obviously Melvin knows him really well as well.
I'll try and get him on the next pod, shall I?
Get him on, yeah. Be good to speak to him. See if he remembers.
I don't think you'll have a good look.
Well, not now, but yeah, he's always been noted in Arsenal's history. Apparently, though, he scored that goal and then he got injured, and because there wasn't any changing rooms at Highbury, because they hadn't finished building it yet, he got taken on a horse and cart up the road to get treated at someone's house.
Dear.
In that same game. There you go. Different times, slightly times. It wouldn't have been safety now, would it? Highbury at that point, without any changing rooms or anything like that. But anyway. One of those things. Yeah, so that was George Joby. So yeah, I think we've pretty much covered them all there. Some great players, maybe not always great for Newcastle, perhaps some of them, but some great players on that list, I think, as well in history of football, which is nice. If we kind of sort of back up to date again, really looking ahead to the game tomorrow, just really wanted to go through what we think the lineup might be. Obviously, the FA Cup games tend to sometimes a few players get rested from the Premier League teams and stuff like that. I mean, I'm assuming that's going to be the case probably for both of us, if I'm honest. Newcastle's got a history of not playing their sort of Premier League team in the FA Cups and stuff and the League Cup. So if we start with Melvin, what do you think our team lineup might be tomorrow? Do you think there's going to be a lot of changes, or do you think he might go pretty strong? He's tended to be quite strong in the Cups generally, hasn't he, Arteta? So,
yeah, I think that he needs us. We need to get up the league a little bit, don't we? Really, we've had a bit of a scare in this season. I think he's got to keep momentum down as well. So the balancing act, big balancing act. Actually, it's not good to beat against or any team tomorrow. It'll make a few heads drop again. So I think he will be quite a strong team. I think he might rest Bellerin at right back, and I think he might rest the left back as well. Tierney, he might rest him for Ainsley. And he might put in at centre half David Luiz or Gabriel, not both centre halves. One of them, I think, he'll rest. I think he'll probably keep Mari in because he hasn't had many games. Midfield, he'll keep the same front two, and I think he might give Pepe a run out for Saka, hopefully, because I think he needs a rest. And I think that's probably where we be. That's I think the team he might pick. But I can never get the team that our manager picks. I always get it totally wrong. But that's what I think he might do.
Welcome to the world.
I never get it right, but anyway, I mean, I personally think you might make a few more changes in that. Actually, I think you might rest a few more. What do you think, Ryan? What will be your kind of? What do you think Arteta might do tomorrow? Do you think he's going to rest a lot of players, or do you think you might still be quite strong because it's important competition for us?
I think if our Palace game on midweek was a Wednesday or Thursday, I think he'd rest a lot more. But I think because it's on a Thursday. The rest few, I think the rest Benham don't please. The one person I don't want him to rest is Leno because of the alternative is No, that's not.
Leno's got to play. Yeah, Leno's got to play. There's no doubt he's got to play. First name.
Centre back wise, I'm trying to think now.
Oh yeah, he is part of it.
Because Gabriel's tweeting out he's back, and this, so it depends how fit he is and how he's recovered from his spout of COVID and all that. But I think he'll probably keep it one of either. If Gabriel's back, he'll put him in alongside either Mari or Holding. Left back, he'll probably put Cedric to rest Tierney for midweek, because obviously they've got Newcastle again next weekend as well.
Yeah.
And midfield, I think he'll probably keep the same. It depends on Partey's availability or not. If Partey's available, he'll put Partey alongside probably Danny. Trying to think now. And then the rest, really, in terms of the attacking sense, I'll keep the front four the same as it has been, really, in the sense of Smith, Rose, Saka, bring Martinelli back in, and have Laka down the middle, or Balogun down the middle, actually.
Yeah,
and have Laka and Uber on the bench just in case, as a security thing.
Yeah,
that's the thing with Balogun. He wants to be shown that he'll given a chance to get some playing time. That's the one thing that holding him back from signing this contract, apparently. So show him, let him prove to you that he's good enough.
I'd like to see him play against Premier League opposition. He's done well in the Europa League. I know it's not a Premier League game, but it's Premier League opposition. So I'd like to see him given a chance and see what he can do. And if he comes in as a good game, maybe scores, then he's proving a point, and then it's going to be more difficult for Arteta then to leave him out in future, isn't it? He's got to put him in the squad if that's going to be the case. But we'll see. I mean, I would definitely like to see Balogun start up front. I'm just not sure if he will. I think Arteta might well go with a bit more experience in the team, because it's a competition. Obviously, he won last season, and I think it's an important competition for us now. With obviously the top four, we're going to struggle. Even the top six, we're going to struggle to get into. So this could be our way back into Europe, winning the FA Cup again. So I think he'll take it seriously, but I do think he'll rest a lot of players as well, because, as Melvin said, we need the league players. I mean, Paul, what are your kind of thoughts in Steve Bruce's team? Do you think he's going to go Premier League kind of team, or do you think he might rest a few and rotate a few?
I don't think he's got a lot of options at the minute because of injuries, and obviously that we've still got players recovering from COVID. So I definitely think Dubravka will start in goal tomorrow. I think he will rest Darlow, who's just been outstanding this season. He deserves a rest, so Dubravka needs games. I think he'll go 5 at the back. As John said before, I've got no doubt he'll play defensively, so you're probably looking at Mankio or Yedlin again at left, at sort of right back. I think he might rest one of the central defenders and bring Paul Dummett in because we know he can play central defence. So he could go with Shah, Clark and Dummett. Left wing back will probably be Jamal Lewis. And then it's take your pick after that. I think Isaac Hayden should play because we need him. And then it's either Longstaff, either one of the Longstaff brothers or Shelvey. I think Joe Linton, I don't know whether you think John will start, but I think he will, because he's either Steve Bruce's love child or there's something in his contract.
Or both.
It's just that's the way it is. I think he may rest Callum Wilson tomorrow, looking at the Sheffield United game, so he's got Gill or Carroll to come in there. And on right-hand side, again, it's take your pick, Almiron or Murphy. So, but I can never second-guess Steve Bruce's team lineups. I never can. I never can guess his tactics when they're on the pitch or formations, but that's what I think it might happen tomorrow anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, that would be, a couple of players there, but Dummett's not really playing much, is he? So that would be something a bit different. I mean, what about you, John? Are you thinking that might be the case, or have you got a few different things up your sleeve that you might think you might try?
Well, I'd like to see a 4-2-3-1, if I'm honest with you. You've got nothing to lose. But I think he's going to play 5 at the back with Tuesday's game in mind. So I've said Dubravka's going to play in goal. I'm going to say Manquillo. I'm going to say on the other side, probably Dummett maybe. And then the 3 on the backs, I think it's just a selfish fit. He might come and play. So it'll be him. I'd say Clark and Shah. I think he rests Fernandes for Tuesday. Then you play 4 across in the field. I mean, Hayden's going to play Longstaff. I think he may play Almiron again, Richard, and Jordan can't play. I cannot. I think it'll probably be Andy Carroll for me. I think that Carroll's first start. I will not play Jordan ever again for Newcastle. He's not good enough. But I say 5-4-1, but Mihar says 4. I'll probably say 4-2-3-1, but I agree with Paul. You can never second guess Steve's squad lineup at the end of the day. I just think it'll be 5-4-1 because he always plays that way against the big teams, and we still get beat.
Mind you, Andy Carroll actually has got a good scoring record against us, to be fair. Whoever he's played for, he scored a few for West Ham against us, for Newcastle the first time round, and he scored for Liverpool against us. He always tends to pop up with a goal against us. So if he's play,
he's got 1 in 2 years. I think
yeah.
Safe.
He hasn't played against us much. That's the problem. When he plays against us, he tends to find a goal from somewhere. He generally does. So I don't know. It's very likely if he plays.
Did he score a hat-trick for West Ham against us?
I think he scored. Yeah, actually, he might have scored a hat-trick. He definitely scored 2.
Yeah, the 3-3 draw.
A 3-3 draw.
The last game against them at the Bowling Ground, yeah.
Yeah. Was it a hat-trick he scored? It might have been, yeah. I think he scored a hat-trick. Was that right?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah. Gabriel, it was one of Gabriel's, not this Gabriel, but Gabriel Balista's one of his worst games because he was in and out of the squad himself. Yeah,
no, Andy Carroll's definitely scored a few against us over the years. So, yeah, I would be concerned if he plays, actually, just concerned the fact that if any set pieces, any balls into the box, we're not the best at defending those situations. We don't have the biggest defenders, actually, in height-wise, and he's really good in the air. And he did score last week as well, so his confidence might be up. And
he is still a handful in the air, don't get me wrong. He is still a handful. He's just one of those old-fashioned, rugged centre-forwards. He still plays the game that way. Whether it's because we haven't provided enough for him, it's not just his fault that he hasn't scored goals since he's come back. We don't provide our forwards with any ammunition to score goals. That's a big problem. So I think, it's not all down to Andy Carroll, but he is still a handful, don't get me wrong.
No, he is.
We've
got no creativity at all whatsoever in the midfield. I mean, how many creativity midfielders have we got? Paul or anyone? We've got only Shelby, and that's about it. That is what we need, someone in the January window to get a creative midfield that's going to pass the ball to our forward line. And he ain't got that.
Yeah, but he causes us problems. If you put balls, if Andy Carroll's playing and you put balls into the box against us, it's going to cause us problems. It is, and whether he gets a goal out of it or whether something falls to somebody else, I can see that happening. And I would prefer it if Joe Linton plays, because Joe Linton is not a problem, but Andy Carroll is a massive problem for us, and I don't want to see him play.
He's got history against us, because when Newcastle first came up the first time round, under Chris Shooter at the Emirates, he scored a winning goal. It was a 1-0 win. Yeah.
Last time Newcastle played Emirates. Yeah, it was a good header.
So he's got history.
Every time he's one of them players that we can't seem to deal with, because the way, maybe like Paul said, it's the way he plays. He's very old-fashioned type centre forward, and I think we've always generally had sort of footballing centre halves, and maybe they're not used to dealing with a player like him. We've always had problems with him, and looking at who we've got who likely to be playing in our defence tomorrow, I think if he plays, we're going to have problems with him again. But like you said, I guess it's getting the ball to him, isn't it? That's the issue. He can cause us as many problems as he likes. If he doesn't get the ball, it's not going to be a problem for us, is it at all? But that's what it's going to come down to, I suppose. But I say I would prefer it if Andy Carroll's not playing for that reason, because I can see him scoring. And then it makes it, means we're going to have to try and find 2 goals from somewhere against a team with 10 defenders, which is not going to be easy. But we'll see. I mean, why don't we then move on from that then, and let's have a go at this. If it was a league game, I think I would be more able to be confident about a score prediction. But the cup is so unpredictable. I think that's the problem with it. And, I think both teams are going to show changes from the last Premier League game and probably to the next Premier League game as well. The FA Cup third round always seems to come round at a time when there's been lots of games after Christmas. You've got other league games straight afterwards as well. It's a busy time of the season, and it generally leads to a lot of changes. And that makes it hard for me to kind of come up with a score prediction until I've seen the teams. Maybe. I mean, what are you thinking, Melvin? It's obviously it's our cup, isn't it? It's our trophy. We don't want to lose in the third round, are we? Not at home.
Well, I think we're scraped through 2-1 because we will make changes. We might lose that little bit of ability we've had the last few games. I think we're scraping 2-1.
Is it extra time or is it straight to penalties?
I think it's extra time then pens.
I think it's extra time and pens because they've scrapped all the replays, haven't they?
Actual replays, yeah. Is it extra time though? Or is it just straight to penalties like League Cup?
I think it was the Carabao Cup that they went straight to penalties. I think the FA Cup's extra time. I think.
Yeah, I think it is extra time. We'll find out tonight because as it stands, Aston Villa are drawing 1-1. Their kids are drawing 1-1 with Liverpool. It's half time, yeah.
They must be gutted to not winning 7-2 again.
What is their kids?
I mean, what about yourself, Ryan? What's your kind of prediction for tomorrow? The score tomorrow?
Oh, good night yourself. About the lineups, it's very hard to guess. But if I was going by the lineup I've sort of given, I think it'll be a scrappy 2-0. It won't be like what we go 1 in ahead, and then sit back because Newcastle will start coming at us a bit more, and we'll count and get that second at the end, something like that. Be a very gritty performance, a very gritty result either way. But I can't see us. Be famous last words. Someone will see this and clip it up on social media if it does happen. But I can't see us, no disrespect, doing what we did in 2018 after winning the FA Cup and getting knocked out in the third round.
Yeah, well, let's hope not. But
touch wood.
What about yourself, Paul? What is your are you confident that you guys are going to come down to the Emirates and turn us over?
No. I wish I was. Honestly, I wish I was. I truly never want Newcastle to lose. I really don't. And I hate it when we lose. I mean, you can tell by some of my previous videos, I get very annoyed at Newcastle on a regular basis. But I never want them to lose. And I'd love to go to the Emirates tomorrow and come away with a win. I think if you don't score an early goal, I think we are in maybe scraping it into extra time, etc. And it will be a scrappy game. If you don't score early, it will be a scrappy game. I've got no doubt the way we play. If it's a scrappy game like that, then probably a scrappy 2-0 to you guys. If you score early and we have to come out, then I can see it being 4-0. But I'm going more of the lines of us shutting up shop and a scrappy 2-0 to Arsenal. But don't get me wrong, I'd love to come away and be completely wrong about that and win the game.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean, I don't know what you sort of feel about the FA Cup. I know it's not been a competition that Newcastle I don't think taken that seriously in recent years. Rest a lot of players and gone out quite early. I know last year you had a decent enough run to was it quarterfinals, wasn't it?
Quarterfinals,
yeah. I mean, what do you feel about the FA Cup? Is it something that you would really like to go for as a club? I know it's a difficult time.
Because we've had so little success over the years. I don't understand, and I could never understand even why Rafa or previous managers have never took it seriously. Because if you look at previous FA Cups, when the likes of Cardiff and Wigan have got to the cup final, you think, well, if they can do it, why can't Newcastle United? If we just took it a bit more seriously. But again, Steve Bruce came out a few weeks ago and said his remit is just to stay in the league. And so is there any desire to win anything at Newcastle at the minute? No. So it's very hard. I love the FA Cup because I grew up on it as a kid, watching the final, getting on the buses and following the cameras all the way to kick off, that kind of thing. So it is special to me, but it's just not special to the clubs anymore, or to certain clubs. And for us, it's an ideal way to get success, and I just don't know why we never go for it.
Well, I suppose it doesn't help though. You've got an owner that can't make his mind if he wants to sell or not. Well, I want to sell. Then gets an offer and it all goes pear-shaped somehow.
I think that's still
someone else's fault.
That's all going to court. So hopefully we'll be rid of him soon. But
can't stand him. I cannot stand Mike Ashley.
He's got no. Mike Ashley does not have any ambition to win anything. He's happy just to plough in to take the money out of the club on a regular basis. And as long as that club is sitting happy in the Premier League and he's getting his TV money, he's getting his millions, nothing will change. Which is why we are so much wanting to take over. You go on all about these pundits and people like that, Newcastle fans want Champions League, they want this, they want that. We don't. All we want is a football team that actually has aspirations to progress. a bit of ambition, a bit of fight on the pitch. You know, if we, let's say we turn up tomorrow to you guys and we get beat 3-0, but we've actually tried and you can see the players putting effort in and they've gave it a good go, I'll applaud the lads off the pitch. You know, if we see a bit of desire, and that's all we want as fans of Newcastle. We don't bother about Champions League or anything like that at the minute. We just want a team that gives a damn and wants to try and do things on the pitch. But that's the boardroom, obviously.
I think we all want that, really. I mean, ultimately, if success comes from that, then that's a bonus on top. I always look at it. We won the FA Cup last year, that was great. And that's a bonus. Like, I agree with you. You want to see your team just giving 100% on the pitch every single game. And you'll win some games, you'll lose some games because we're not Liverpool, we're not Man City. Teams like that, we have to accept that. You're going to win and lose games. But, yeah, it's all about the fight and the desire for 90 minutes on the pitch. And if they do that, you can't really be upset if you lose. You're disappointed if you lose, of course, but you can't be upset if you feel that even every.
You know, you look at Leeds United, how they played this season. It's do or die for them. It's like, well, you score 3, we'll try and score 4. That's how we were in the 90s. For me, it's fantastic. It's exciting to watch, but we haven't had anything like that for years. But the FA Cup special to me, I'd love to see us try and get there.
Yeah, it's no coincidence with Sir Bobby Robson, God rest his soul. What he did for the club, he came in, obviously loved the club anyway, and what he did, he got them competitive, had the ambition that you wanted to win your what is Europa League now, UEFA Cup and the FA Cups and things like that. It's no coincidence since Mark Ashley's taken over, that ambition has slowly been bled out the club because he doesn't have that ambition. He just, as he said, just cares about getting money in his pocket.
Yeah.
People like Mike Ashley should not be running football clubs because for him it's just a money-making cow, and that's all it is. He can tell by all the sports signs over the place.
Exactly. This is a guy literally in the early stages of his time taking over, brought Dennis Wise in and changed his stadium name to Sports Direct to promote his brand. It's another thing with Mike Ashley. There's no coincidence at that same time he's obviously had you guys as ownership. He got run out of Rangers because they had enough of him. They couldn't stand him because he's doing the same thing there.
But it's people like him that are damaging football in general. Yeah, you see what I mean? Because teams like Newcastle United and should be up there, should be challenging for things. We don't have a God-given right to, but the size of the club, the size of the fan base, owners. I mean, you've got your problems with your owners as well over time, and it just. I don't understand why proper football people can't come in and run the clubs and actually have some ambition. Because for me, the FA Cup is special, and it'll be disappointing for me to go to Arsenal tomorrow and get knocked out in the third round, and they think, well, that's it. What have we got?
Yeah. No, exactly. No, I agree. I mean, what about yourself, John? What are you kind of thinking for tomorrow? Are you confident that you might be able to pull it off? It will be a little bit of a shock, I guess, if you was to win, but FA Cup's the FA Cup, and it is 2 Premier League teams at the end of the day. It could go either one.
Well, I mean, listen, I don't want to see my team get beat. That's the first and foremost. I want to see my team go out and give it a go. But unfortunately, look at our form. We only won twice in the last 10 games. And unfortunately, we've just not been good enough. I could see a 3-0 defeat tomorrow. But going back to about Ashley, he's got no interest at the football club at all whatsoever. He just doesn't care. His remit is to finish 17th every season. 17th, that's it. Other than that, he doesn't care, And we haven't won a trophy since 1955, am I correct? That's the FA Cup. And we haven't won the European Affairs Cup since 69. Yeah?
Melvin was there that day, weren't you, Melvin?
Bless. But 51, we haven't won now 51, and for a club like Newcastle, we should be winning that. We're not going to win the Champions League. We're not going to win the league. Okay, I'll be happy over them if we won the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup and just get us a trophy so we can tat a boot. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, Mike Ashley has killed the whole thing. He's killed our club. He's killed our hopes, his dreams, ambitions, Paul agree with this as well, mind, because I says it on Twitter all the time. And are we going to win tomorrow? I doubt it. But I'd love to be proved wrong. I hope we go out there and get a draw.
You can get a general feeling of how optimism is on hindsight.
Yeah. No, you beat me up anyway. That's one good thing. I mean, the last 3 times Arsenal have played Newcastle at home in the FA Cup, Arsenal have won 3-0. The last 3 occasions that they've played at home. Your 3 predictions, John, might not be that far off, although I don't think it's going to be like that this time, if I'm honest. I think it's going to be a tight game. If Arsenal play the strongest side, which I think we will because it's our cup to defend and you don't want to go out at home in the 3rd round. So I think we'll play a few of the bigger name players, if you like. And yeah, I think we might just sneak it, but I don't think it's going to be pretty. I wouldn't be surprised if it was extra time. I think we might sneak it 2-1. But I think it's going to be, I think, yeah, what Paul said before, the first goal I think is important. If we do get the first goal, Newcastle have got to come out because you can't just go out without trying. And I think if we score, it's going to open the game up and we could get a couple more on the break. But if we don't score, it stays 0-0. Who knows? If Andy Carroll comes on or if he plays a free kick corner, who knows? You know, he can get a goal, can't he? And then suddenly we're chasing the game with a mass defence. It's going to be difficult. But I think, I'm going to be optimistic. It's our cup to, we don't want to lose at home. So I think that we will sneak it 2-1. There's a question here for everybody. Do we think the FA Cup will finish on schedule? Because obviously, because of all the COVID situation that's going on. I mean, I think not having replays is going to help the situation in terms of backlog. But at this moment in time, with all the kind of COVID cases and games being called off, I'm even wondering whether the season will not have to have a break again like last year. I mean, I don't know what you guys are thinking. What do you think about that? Do you think we're going to finish the FA
Cup? It's now becoming the elite sport, football, isn't it? Especially the Premiership. It's not like the world we live in. Not only that, it's not even football. It's just the Premiership, and that has become like top of the mountain because obviously there's a lot of money involved, and I think it's a shame. I mean, it should be sensible. There should be a leveling playing field, but obviously it isn't at the moment. And I think we'll have to stop for a bit. I really do. And the FA Cup can be put on a hold for a bit easier than the league. Because at the moment, what they've managed to do the last 6 months or whatever is play at the home ground. There was a thought that everyone was going to play at the same ground over a period of time. Do you remember when it first broke out? And they've been managed to keep it so that you can play your home and away. That doesn't mean as much as it would do with a crowd. There's still that fulfillment of home and away. I think they'll still want to keep that if they can and sacrifice a little bit of the FA Cup and make that as late as possible. Because less teams will be involved as the season goes on in the FA Cup. So as the weeks and months go on, you're lessening the games that are involved because there's less teams there.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only kind of concern I have maybe is the fact that obviously because lower league teams are involved in the FA Cup still, and there's been a lot of Championship games called off, a lot of League One games, a lot of League Two games called off because they've got different kind of protocols to what the Premier League has got. It could be a problem where if the lower league, while the lower league clubs are still in, if any lower league club can't play the game against, say, a Premier League team because they've got a lot of COVID cases, the game gets postponed. How many times can it get postponed? You've then got the next round, and it's going to cause a lot of problems. I don't know if that's why they're drawing the next 2 rounds together on Monday to kind of so they can look at the issues before they start and think, well, there's potential of lower league clubs to be playing each other and the potential they could get. Or maybe that's why they're doing it. I don't know, but. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I think football may well end up having to stop. I mean, what are you thinking, Ryan? Do you think the FA Cup they will make it run to schedule, or can you see there being problems in the next sort of few weeks?
I think the way not just the Premier League, but in general, everyone's sort of acting sort of, even though the cases are going up, but the amount of cases in not just outside of the Premier League itself, but the Premier League itself, the numbers are going daily, going week by week, are going higher and higher, like stupid numbers now. And then sort of burying their heads in the sand, making new rules just to justify them keep going. I don't know how long, because last year we all saw it took for Mikel Arteta to have the virus as bad as he did for everything to come to a standstill. And this time I don't know if that's going to be the case anymore, because we're seeing lots of Newcastle have had it recent weeks, Man City, Fulham, Villa as well as we speak, all having these outbreaks in their respective clubs, and it's still continuing. They're finding excuses to continue it. So the longer it goes on, again, because as Melvin says, though, the longer the competition goes on, the less teams are in it, etc. But it's just it does affect really. When you look at the FA Cup, the FA Cup has always had that history about the smaller clubs doing the impossible and things like that. So the ones going to get hurt in this are going to be the smaller clubs, because they ain't going to get the revenue they would getting a big club of time.
As well, isn't it? No replays, because often they replay at home and they get a big crowd, get a lot of money. Even now, replay away, if they draw at home, they get a replay and then they get money for TV for the replay and stuff like that. Whereas now they're going to miss out on that as well. So it isn't fair on the clubs, unfortunately.
We saw back in start of this season when Leighton Orient had a breakout back in August, September, and they were due to play that lot down the road because they had an outbreak. Their game initially got postponed and then got cancelled, and they lost a lot of money because over 200 mil.
Yeah,
£2 million in actual TV revenue itself, because it's meant to be on TV.
That's right. And unfortunately now with the games that's been postponed in the lower leagues already, I think it's opening up problems for the FA Cup anyway. In fact, there's no replays now. Yeah, they've done that for this reason, but like you said, the smaller clubs are going to lose out. It's always the smaller clubs that pay, isn't it? Ultimately, whatever. The smaller clubs are the ones that miss out. I mean, what about yourself, Paul? What can you see happening now with all of this? Obviously, postponements of games right, left, and centre. It's going to affect the FA Cup surely at some point, isn't it?
Yeah, I would expect so. But I think that's what you said before about them drawing the next couple of rounds in one go. And also, I think if teams have to pull out through COVID, they have to pull out the competition by the looks of things. So I think that will help get the competition finished. It's not going to help the clubs because they obviously want to be involved, but it depends how quickly everything gets sorted with vaccines and everything and stuff like that, and whether we can finish when we're going to. To me, I would scrap the Euros, and just this year I would say, look, I'd scrap the Euros. That's it, all gone, and concentrate on domestic seasons getting finished in plenty of time, but letting them have plenty of time to get over this second wave and things like that, rather than just try and cram everything in, because that's the problem. And the Euros are going to be terrible, really, when you think about it.
There will be,
fans in there at the minute, just may as well scrap them. But, I'm not in charge of that kind of thing, so I don't know. But I think it does help drawing the rounds out quickly and getting them sorted, but it depends how many games they've got to put in together to finish it off. Is it going to be over a couple of weeks if they have to have a break? Or they're just going to play the FA Cup at the end of the season, just over a 3-week period, and just say, right, that's it, let's just play it out? It's up in the air, isn't it? It's all over the place, but we'll just have to see, I think.
And that's a really good point about the Euros. I mean, really, in this current situation, surely they can't play any international football. They can't play any European football because of the travelling involved. Surely they can't do that. Certainly now. I mean, I know European football's not back till the end of February anyway, but surely they weren't going to be able to play European football, are they, in February? And then have an international break whenever the next international break in February as well, isn't
it? The Euros are going to be in lots of different countries, aren't they? So that's even a bigger problem, just holding it in one particular country.
It could be us, Italy, Belgium, Holland, and I think somewhere else. England,
Scotland, all over the place.
Yeah, but you're thinking about players from different bubbles. It's going to get very complicated if a player from one country gets it. Then obviously the whole squad in that country, that squad will get it. Then you've got to think, well, what about the players he plays with as well back home? It's really going to make it complicated. It's going to make no game playable if any one person gets it. Because the way it goes whoosh.
And this is why, Mel, when at the beginning of the season, I said on my channel, international football itself should be scrapped, because in the midst of a pandemic, global pandemic, as you said, we saw with Chiellini, he only went up to Scotland, and then one of his teammates got it, and there was doubt about him playing, coming back. They weren't allowing him coming back into England because of it. They had 2 weeks on edge and all that. And that's not just obviously from our supportive view, but there's all these players all over the world playing in their domestic club bubble. And then come the international break, it's like, no, bubble burst, off you go, do what you want, and come back, we form a bubble again. It's and hope that you don't get, and hope, fingers crossed, you don't get an outbreak. I mean, Celtic over in Scotland, there was a winter break there, a week off, they pissed off to Dubai.
Yeah.
I mean, how is that allowed?
Also, what we did, we had a pandemic, with all this aggro going on, so I think what we do, we not only play international games. We played friendlies as well, just to pile it all on.
Yeah.
What are they doing that for then? Why are they friendlies? I mean,
Yeah.
what is going on?
Money.
Yeah, of course it is. It's ridiculous. It's not right. It's not right. Sorry.
No, it's madness. I mean, John, what do you think? Because obviously you guys suffered quite badly with the COVID thing a few weeks ago. Had to call a game off, didn't you? Funny enough, against Aston Villa, who have now got their own outbreak. I mean, surely it's going to end up affecting pretty much every club at some point, isn't it? Man City, as we said, have had to call a game off. I mean, it's going. I think every single club at some point is probably going to have at least one game called off because of the number of cases that they've got. I mean, what do you think the answer is? It's difficult, isn't it? Because do we just stop playing again like last year? Is that the answer? Do you think?
If you asked that question last season, I would just say, yeah, stop and just cancel the whole thing. Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And like I agree with Paul, scrap the Euros, scrap the international friendlies, start there, right? Get them out of the way to the new season, right? And try and get the domestic leagues as finished as quick as possible as you can. And the FA Cup can just like go over to the back burner sort of thing, try and scrap that. But at the end of the day, we need to look after the players' welfare at this moment in time. The health comes first for the games. But what we don't want to do, like we did last season, is kick off again in July, all the way for September, and then the new season starts in a couple of weeks' time. So for me, I'll say give it to the end of the month. If it gets worse and worse and worse, they have no choice but to do it again. But personally, I like to see the games finish as quick as possible. If that's not feasible and it gets worse, just okay, you have to cancel it again until it gets better.
See, for me, if they scrap the Euros, it would give, and they finished this season relatively quickly.
Yeah.
Judging by how quick they had to start this season from last season, it'd give the players a good rest and, you know, give time for everything to settle down if there was no Euros. Like you say, you know, they're going to go away into all these international bubbles and God knows what can happen. If the Euros were cancelled, there's less pressure on the football authorities to get everything finished as quick as possible. Yes, get it finished, but let the players have a good break before they have to kick off the next season. Having the Euros, for me, at this situation, is just, it's pointless. It's absolutely pointless.
Madness.
What you got to remember is if they do cancel the Euros and if they have to postpone the season, say now or in February, and they maybe will have to have 2 months off, at least they can play it into the summer to get it finished in June or July, and it still does leave a little bit of a break and they can start again for next year. So it makes sense to do it, but they won't because of how much money they lost last year.
That's all it is. They just what do you think about it? Money?
That's all. That's anything.
They'll cancel the league season ahead of and keep the Euros on. If they have to finish the league season, we can't finish it now. It's too late. We're not going to get the games in. They'll stop the season in April because we can't finish it, and then make sure the Euros. I think that's more likely to happen this year because of cancelling the Euros before. I can't see them cancelling it 2 years in a row. Unfortunately, it makes sense to do it, but I don't think they will. I'll be amazed.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. This whole thing has actually shown the UK broadcasters, the clubs itself, what their main interest is. They don't care about us, the fans, or the general health of their own employers. All they care about is what's coming into the club financially, and it's what it is. And this was a well-known thing before, but it sort of vamped it home to a few more people that are sort of naysayers. Like, well, I don't know. They do care, but well, obviously they don't. Because if they cared as much as they did, they wouldn't have rushed back the return of the Premier League back in the summer when we're still in the midst of a pandemic. We're still in that first hit last year.
Yeah, it was, and I think it's what Cheddar says there about the Euros. They had to start this season early because they need, or earlier than they would have liked to have done, because they need to get it finished for the Euros. And it looks like they're still intending for it to go ahead. And I think if they're going to cancel it, they won't cancel it until the very last minute.
Yeah, lastminute.com, yeah.
They'll see what happens. At the moment, they won't have any plans to cancel. It doesn't mean that they won't have to at the end. I mean, last year they kind of made the decision reasonably late when, after the football had already stopped and stuff like that, they realised they wasn't going to get it done. I mean, it's a difficult situation actually because of everything that happened last year with the football and having to cancel the tournaments and stuff. It put them in a lot more pressure this year, doesn't it, to make things go ahead and make things run more to plan. But unfortunately, now the situation that's happening, it's going to be very, very difficult to do that. It's going to be difficult just to keep football running as it is because I just think that it's not that long away, I don't think, when suddenly it's going to get to a point where one weekend there's going to be 4 or 5 Premier League games cancelled on the same week, and then that's just going to lead to bigger pile up of fixtures later on. There's going to be other stuff happening. I just think that it's going to get to that point very quickly, and it's no good football. I don't think the Premier League, whoever it is, just sitting on their hands and waiting for it to happen. They need to have a plan in place now and say, why don't we have a winter? They brought winter break in last year, didn't they? Funnily enough, the first time we had a winter break. Yes, it wasn't a big
Came
winter
back
break.
and it went.
Every club got 1 week, but it was staggered. So 1 week, half the team played, and the other half, which was stupid. But anyway, I think they need to come together and say, look, why don't we have a winter break now for 3 weeks? Shut it down, get this more under control. The vaccine will be coming out, as we said. It's that's going to hopefully have an impact, and then they can then start the season up again, maybe beginning of March or end of February, and then they can maybe congest it a little bit, play a few more midweek games, bin off European competitions, because I don't think that's a good idea to play that, and they can maybe get it finished. But they won't. They'll keep trying to play every week until it gets to a point where there's teams just can't play because there's no teams available to play. No one's got any players who can play, and eventually they're going to have to do it. But they should put a plan in place now. I think get prepared because it's going to get worse before it gets better. I think there's no doubt about that now, and we've got to act and do something before it becomes an issue, and we're going to end up with a massive problem in the spring, aren't we? With loads and loads of games still to be played, the Euro still to go ahead, and no time to play them all. And you can't expect the players have had a tough year, haven't they? Because they had a break when the lockdown was on before, but they've virtually played all the way through. They didn't get a pre-season. They've come straight into it again. They've had European games. They've had international friendlies. They've had all sorts going on. Players flying around all over the world, and it's ridiculous, really. But anyway, I guess we'll see what happens with that. But that's, I suppose, a slightly bigger issue than we can perhaps think about at the moment. Let's hope that things calm down quite quickly and football can carry on. But to me, the FA Cup needs to be as it is. I don't even like the fact there's no replays. I don't want it to get to a point like we said before, where teams are having to pull out because they can't get a team, and then the team gets a bye in the next round. I don't want that to happen. That just makes a mockery of the competition, the oldest competition in the football world. They can't devalue it like that and just give teams a bye. They'll either play the game, play them properly like they did manage to do last year, or just say, sorry, this year we're going to have to spin it off because we can't get it done. They have to do one or the other. They can't. I don't think they can just mix and match and try to get through it and give buys to teams and stuff like that. That's not fair, especially on the smaller clubs that's going to lose out. So poor old Tottenham are going to struggle, aren't they?
Oh no, what a shame.
The first game that should be abandoned is the League Cup. Cancel that.
Cancel that League Cup final, yeah. Does it exist?
Man City have had problems with COVID. Tottenham have had problems with COVID. Just spin it off. Get that competition. Yeah, and you don't need to worry about it. And just focus on the FA Cup instead. Or focus on the FA Cup until tomorrow night. And if we lose, then we can bin that off and off. And bin the League off as well, because that's a write-off as well. We'll just forget that. But yeah, anyway. Well, thanks for you guys for joining me tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure. Start with you guys. Obviously, Paul, I know you've got your channel, the Toon review. Do you want to give it a bit of a plug?
Well, yeah. I mean, I basically talk about obviously Newcastle mostly on there, but I do talk about the Premier League itself and other football news and stuff like that. So it's not just a Newcastle United channel too. I did start it off that way, but I wanted to sort of expand it to all football really, whether it be the Premier League, EFL, or whatever. I love doing videos. I love coming on shows like this. I started doing my own, which John comes on a Monday night with me and a couple of other guys. So yeah, I just want to build a football community on there, as do every YouTuber on here. So it's just what I want to build.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, I mean, I know sometimes you think, oh, well, this is an Arsenal channel. Most of our viewers are Arsenal fans, but, we like to support other clubs' channels as well. So, I've subscribed to your channel as well. And, I've watched some of your videos. I think it's really good. So, everybody else, say, jump over to have a look at Paul's channel as well. And John, yourself, you've got a channel as well, haven't you? Give that a plug as well.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've started, really came back again for a couple of weeks now. And I do like the press conference reaction show I've done earlier on, and I've done the live watch along twice, and that's where we play Liverpool and play Leicester, and I really enjoy that. And I'm going to do other contents as well, like player ratings. I'm going to do the combined 11 at some stage, and I'm going to think of a couple of things So I was in the fire, and I've got 170 subscribers in a minute. I'll try to get 1,000 people if I can, which would be great. But I'm enjoying it, and I'm getting a few people come show. I've got a watch along on tomorrow and Tuesday. I've got a lad called Toon TV coming on my show on Tuesday to help us do the watch along, and I'm so excited.
What's your channel called, just so people can find you?
Just John Sinclair, and if you can't find it fully, just put NUSC next to it, and that'll come up.
Excellent. Okay, I'll say everyone have a look at that as well. Ryan, as well, obviously your channel, Mr. Arsenal Podcast. Give that a plug as well. I know most people who watch this know who you are. We got several.
Yeah. Well, basically, it's the Mr. Arsenal Podcast here on YouTube. Literally, since obviously the summer, I've been mainly doing watch-alongs, the odd quizzes, which I've been doing this weekend as well on Sunday, 5:30. Doing the watch-along tomorrow, obviously, with Melvin and a few others from about just before 5 o'clock. And we have a discussion about the lineups, this, that, and the other, as we usually do. Do play of ratings as well. And yeah, if I'm not on there, I'm on here with yourself or on Andrew's channel.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew couldn't make it on tonight, unfortunately, because he's got his boys with him. And Melvin, you're the only one missing out. You don't have a channel. You need to get yourself a channel, because we've all got channels to plug and you haven't. It's a shame.
Well, it's very difficult for a dinosaur to use a computer. That's all I'll say. But no, thanks very much. Really enjoyed you two lads tonight. Thank you very much. And there's find me on in the own way as Arsenal Marks. That's on Twitter. But I'm normally in these two guys' channels. Plus Andrews is where to Dial Square, the way around.
From Dial Square to where?
Sorry. But one more, just before I go, one more fact that we share. The 1932 Arsenal-Newcastle Cup final was the last Cup final that never got televised.
Well, there you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
And actually, another fact then, seeing as we're finishing on some facts, I've got two facts for you. Arsenal's first ever match in the league, in the Football League, was against Newcastle. It was our first ever opponents. And the first time we played in Division 1, our first opponents that season were Newcastle as well. So Arsenal and Newcastle have had quite a big history together over the course of time. Some important big games between the clubs. 3 FA Cup finals we've played as well. Some important big games over the years. So, Newcastle are a massive club, and I agree with what you said earlier, Paul, that it's a club that should be challenging for success and honoured on a regular basis. Like, there's a lot smaller clubs, technically, historically, certainly, that have found a way of competing for honours that's maybe not quite the way that we personally would like our club. But, it's a shame that there's clubs like yourselves, there's clubs like Leeds that have had difficult times, and these are big clubs that should be. I think the Premier League was set up for the big clubs. I know it might be wrong. Small clubs deserve the opportunity, but big clubs with the sort of fan base that you guys have, I think you should be in a situation where, like you said, you can't expect to win things all the time. Nobody can, but you want to be in a position where you feel you've got a chance. That's what it's about, isn't it? Feel like you've got a chance of taking it seriously. And tomorrow is going to be an opportunity to see how seriously both of us are taking this FA Cup with the team selection and stuff like that as well. It's a shame it's come this early in the competition, actually. It would have been a nice game to have had maybe a semi-final or a final or something like that again, but maybe one day it'll happen. So, but yes, I'll say thanks for you guys for coming on. Melvin and Ryan and obviously Paul and John, the Newcastle fans. Thanks to everybody who's been in the chat tonight as well. Gary, Russ, Cheddars was in there as well, Hussein earlier on, Mark as well. So thanks to all you guys. Thanks to everyone for watching. I'll be doing a watch along of the game tomorrow as well. It's on BBC One, so I'll actually be able to sit downstairs in comfort for a change. Find an internet feed of it. So, but that'll be good. And then I'll probably do a review show on Sunday as well, looking back on the game. Hopefully a good game. And may the best team win. That's all I'm going to say, as long as it's us. So thanks everyone. Thanks to you guys. Stay tuned to the channel. Loads coming up. And of course, in the meantime, as always, come on, you Gunners! Come on, let's win the cup again.
We're not Toon.
How are the lads?